Phoenix Knights. Chapter 186 Grandmother's Tactic. Chapter 186 Grandmother's Tactic. Demon Purging Decree was the Seven Houses Act, which held as much power as the Emperor's edicts. Yet, it was far more cruel. Even if the Emperor was subjected to some offense, his edict would involve the seven houses, at the most, in dealing with the offender. But the Demon Purging Decree rendered a constant kill order on the target, in which the seven houses would deploy all their assets, including their venerables, and hunting him down. The target would be exterminated with extreme prejudice. It wasn't limited to the target either, as it included the place he visited, be it a village or a city. They were all burned to the ground, driven by fear. Everyone else would start hounding the target as well, until he had nowhere to hide in the whole of Tianyu Empire. In this manner, the target would slowly grow weary, unable to cope, and ultimately perish. As this was a drastic measure, the Demon Purging Decree was issued only if voted unanimously by the seven house lords. If one house failed to participate, it would be tantamount to betraying the imperial family and being labeled as traitors. Yet, Zhuofan only killed people from 4 houses, becoming bitter enemies with them. Even if he had all 7 of them breathing down his neck, it would still not warrant such a cruel and vicious act as the Demon Purging Decree, since this act implied the slaughter of innocents in cold blood 3 centuries ago. The 7 houses would have refrained from using it as well, but that little monster was too hard to deal with. While this time, it was used on a mere bone-tempering cultivator. Everyone was frowning, sinking into their thoughts. What does everyone think? Huangpu Tianyuan smiled. Yan Bagong, Yuan Shan, and one other nodded. We agree to a state lord's decision. The brat has to be put down at once, Long Yifi muttered. However, using Demon Purging Decree at this time is overkill. This implies an empire-wide call to arms, and an explanation has to be given to the imperial family. Furthermore, Zhuofan is hardly at the level of that little monster 3 centuries ago. It doesn't make sense to use the Demon Purging Decree for just this. Xia Xiaofeng nodded. Humph, of course you'd say that, Pavilion Lord Long. At that time, Veiled Dragon Pavilion was willing to take the blame for the kid. You must be practically joined at the hip with that devil by now. Yuan Shan snorted. Long Yifi roared. Yuan Shan, cease your baseless accusations. When your 2 elders died in Windgaze City, we were in the dark too. Would you have believed us if we just told you it wasn't us? We might as well settle this now so that rumors won't spread saying that Qianlong Pavilion is afraid of you. How is it that now, your story has changed into us taking the fall for Zhuofan? He, you know full well who's taking the blame. Are you to tell me you are that oblivious to what happens in your own backyard? Windgaze City is your domain. Ha, you knew full well that was our domain, yet you sent elders in. They were seeking death. Say that again. Yuan Shan slapped the table and jumped to his feet. Long Yifi did the same in answer to his challenge. Huangpu Tianyuan snorted in anger, one that shook the entire place. Yuan Shan and Long Yifi felt their ears ringing and a heavy force pushing down on them. Shock set in as well. Huangpu Tianyuan's power was incredible. Despite all being peak profound heaven stage experts here, they were a cut below him. The two were reduced to only glaring at each other as they took their seats, eyeing them coldly. Huangpu Tianyuan said, Remember, this is the Regent Estate. The two apologized but were wary nonetheless. Edifice Lord Chu, what is your decision? Huangpu Tianyuan smiled. After a brief reflection, Chu Bijuan responded with a smile. I wholly approve of Estate Lord's decision. This devil ruined Drifting Flowers edifice and has to be put down. Long Yifi and Xia Xiaofeng watched each other baffled. Hey Grandma, we are allies here. Don't go kicking us to the curb. Huangpu Tianyuan was shocked at her casual response, but then Chu Bijuan showed an expression plagued by worry. Estate Lord, we may issue the Demon Purging Decree, but you have to move like lightning and destroy him. You must know that he has the Bodhi root in his possession, Drifting Flowers edifice's greatest treasure. If he is pushed into a corner and eats it, it will boost his power and will ruin us. Chu Bijuan's words struck a chord. Huangpu Tianyuan sighed. On second thought, it is best we don't unleash such a calamity as the Demon Purging Decree on the people. And wait, what? Yuanshan's side nodded out of instinct but soon came to and was flabbergasted. He thought to himself, I say, Estate Lord, didn't you tell us to follow your lead? We even agreed to enact the demon-purging decree. Why are you then so whimsical? Are you going back on your words to trick us too? Huangpu Tianyuan treated their looks of doubt as air, sighing once again in abject sorrow. I only propose the demon-purging decree to see if there's any compassion left in your hearts. Us 7 are the peak of Tianyu's power. We have to lead by example, to stand united in upholding peace in Tianyu. If we adhere to the demon-purging decree and bring disaster to our people over one kid, for our selfishness no less, wouldn't that be too despicable of us? Long Yifi and Xie Xiaofeng bobbed their heads. They were clueless as to why Huangpu Tianyuan shifted gear like a teenager, but they agreed in a heartbeat. Yuanshan's side had their faces twitching, and Huangpu Tianyuan's amiable smile almost had them spurt blood. Curses! Are you playing with us? Did you just use us knowing our motives earlier to paint us the villains while making you the benevolent hero? This damn Regent estate is a den of bastards. Yuanshan's side glanced at each other, looking as if they swallowed a fly. They all then started to discuss how to deal with Shuafan, but came up empty. Huangpu Tianyuan then adjourned the meeting, for the house lords to get some rest. When Chu Bijuan left, Huangpu Tianyuan never let her out of his sight. This damn hag is back to her old tricks. When all left, Huangpu Tianyuan spoke faintly, nodding. Lin Wucheng smiled. Yes, hitting us right where it hurts. The hag saw your motive with a glance and threw a wrench in your demon-purging decree. From what I've seen, the Drifting Flowers edifice may be the weakest house, but Chu Bijuan isn't easy to deal with. At least, far more troublesome than Long Yifi and Xie Xiaofeng working together. Indeed. With this hag back, the Drifting Flowers edifice is going to be a hard pill to swallow. Huangpu Tianyuan's side. Yuanshan's group suddenly appeared in the hall, already knowing they'd come. Lin Wucheng waved them off with a smile. I know what's on your minds, but please relax. We have no ill will towards any of you. Estate Lord only changed his decision on the spur of the moment. Startled, Yuanshan's group held Lin Wucheng in even greater admiration. Sir is an outstanding strategist. It is indeed why we came here, yet you could tell with a single look. Please, you're too kind. I only have people's best intentions in mind. Ling Wucheng smiled. But Sir Ling, Estate Lord, how are we to get rid of Shuafan? Yuanshan frowned. Hell Valley and Shuafan's grudges were bone deep. They only cared about seeing Shuafan dead. Huangpu Tianyuan and Ling Wucheng laughed. Valley Lord, a pup has you running scared? Look at you shaking in worry over there. You are bringing disgrace to the 7 houses. Huangpu Tianyuan mocked him. Ling Wucheng's eyes flashed. Valley Lord, haven't we already sent a team to intercept him? And if it fails? Isn't this the reason for the demon-purging decree? This was Yuanshan and the others' biggest worry. Huangpu Tianyuan rejected. You think a mere bone-tempering kid is worthy of the demon-purging decree? The decree is only a means to an end, a convenient excuse. Yuanshan blinked, baffled. Ling Wucheng looked unperturbed. I may not know much about him, but 3 houses send 2 profound heaven experts after him. The chance of success is over 90%. But just now, it became 100%. Oh, what makes you so sure of success, Sir Ling? Huangpu Tianyuan raised an eyebrow. Even he was curious. Ling Wucheng grinned. Because our guest venerable, Ling Wucheng, volunteered as well. He's going too, whatever for? Huangpu Tianyuan was startled. Why else? He must have heard of the kid's exploits in Drifting Flowers City and plans on taking Shuafan's cultivation method for himself. That martial fanatic knows when to be serious only when these things are involved. Humph, what a fool. He is Regent Estate's guest venerable, with Imperial Tyrant body art at his disposal, and yet here he is coveting an outsider's cultivation method. Huangpu Tianyuan snorted. Ling Wucheng shook his hand indifferently. It doesn't matter. With Elder Li's character, he'll definitely kill the kid afterward. The brat's fate is sealed. Yuanshan's group was overjoyed at the news. Now that a radiant stage expert set his eyes on Shuafan, he would die for sure, no matter how skilled he was. Yet to their complete lack of knowledge of the situation, That giddy radiant stage expert who went to rob and kill, got turned instead. Even Ling Wuchang would be so shocked his eyes would pop out of their sockets. Chapter 187 Return to Windgaze City. Chapter 187 Return to Windgaze City. Also, Yuanshan's group was slowly getting into a mood of celebrating Zhuofan's death. Meanwhile, the one-armed fifth elder was shedding tears of vindication. However, this stopped when Ling Wuchang shot them a look. You all need to proceed to Windgaze City. The smile froze on the four and Yuanshan turned his head mechanically, with a bright smile to offer the two. Estate Lord Serling, haven't we been keeping watch of Windgaze City just so we could get rid of Zhuofan? Why do we need to attack that place now that Zhuofan is out of the picture? Fool! Huangpu Tianyuan barked, his eyes cold. That's the place that gave birth to Zhuofan, and there's a good chance for a second, a third, maybe even a 10th Zhuofan to rise. Rather than deal with that mess, we need to level that clan. Furthermore, Huangpu Tianyuan's tone shifted to a darker one. Have I ever gone back on my words? You did exactly that just now. Shivering, Yuanshan's group complained in their minds, but they were on their best behavior on the outside. Bowing to Huangpu Tianyuan again, they then left. Send them a message. It's time for them to begin. And Huangpu Tianyuan nodded, pleased. Once the four were out of sight of the hall, Yuanshan stomped in rage. Who does Regent Estate think they are to use us as messengers? Yeah, the Emperor banned us from Windgaze City 2 years ago. Regent Estate wants to test the Imperial family's limits, and doesn't dare go himself. So, he is making us face the danger. What an abominable man! Yen Bagong gnashed his teeth. Lin Rufeng furrowed his brow in worry. But we will be offending Regent Estate if we don't go. And if we do, we will incur the Imperial family's wrath. What is the better choice? They stared at each other for a long time but came out empty as they sighed. The Imperial family may be a frail tiger now, but that didn't mean one should start groping its tail. If by some chance they touched a sore spot, the weak tiger would snap back at them. The three houses would feel the fangs and claws of the Imperial family, and would have no place to hide in the Empire. Go to hell, Regent Estate. Each of them was thinking along the same lines, but none dared to turn Huangpu Tianyuan down. Fifth elder continued. Valley Lord, we should choose the lesser of two evils. We don't know if the Imperial family will act if we move in on Windgaze City. But going against Regent Estate will have Huangpu Tianyuan on our backs. And you know his short temper. The three house lords shuddered and sighed. In this situation, our only option is to go on a limb. Yuanshan spat. That the Imperial family is useless and won't act against us. Yuanshan picked a green jade slip and made a gesture. The jade slip turned into a light and shot in Windgaze City's direction. The other two house lords followed his gestures. Ling Wuchang was outside the hall, smiling at the three lights tracing the sky above Caged Dragon City. The three realized my plan, but they chose to follow it anyway. Huangpu Tianyuan chuckled as he walked next to Ling Wuchang. Ling Wuchang nodded with a smile of his own. The three are house lords, after all, not mere idiots. How could they not see through estate lord's intentions? But even so, after balancing the gains and losses, they ultimately sided with estate lord. The seven houses seemed to take the Imperial family as just an empty shell. Indeed. Over the last 1,000 years, the seven houses thrived while the Imperial clan declined. It reached a point where the current emperor is the weakest this empire has ever seen. A great opportunity presents itself to us. Huangpu Tianyuan grinned and showed his ambition. If the Imperial family remains passive even after the Battle of Windgaze City, then I can enact the demon purging decree and purge all outsiders while unifying the seven houses. I will ultimately control the whole land. Ha ha ha, with the seven houses under you, not even the four pillars can stand in your way. I would like to be the first to congratulate the estate lord for taking the throne. Ling Wuchang gave a deep bow. Huangpu Tianyuan laughed, having his ego stroked, then helped Ling Wuchang up. Ling Wuchang, you are the genius of this generation yet chose to become my steward, helping Regent Estates rise to glory. I hereby vow that once I ascend the throne, I will make you the head of the 4 pillars. I am most grateful for Estate Lord's kindness. Ling Wuchang bowed again as hope flickered in his gaze. Once elderly kills Zhuafan and brings back the Bodhi root, I will assist the State Lord in obtaining the 9 dragons' diamond body. Not even the imperial family's 5 divine dragons will be able to harm you then. You will truly wield ultimate power and rule above everyone. But won't that martial fanatic catch an interest into that worldly treasure? Or would he just throw it away? Ha ha ha, you must be jesting, Estate Lord. Elderly is only a martial fanatic and not a complete idiot. How could he throw away such a treasure? Of course he'll return it to us. And with Elderly's ability, Zhuafan will have no opportunity in damaging the treasure at all. Rest assured, Estate Lord. Ling Wuchang and Huangpu Tianyuan started laughing together. As if the world was their oyster in a different part of the city, Long Yaifi, Xie Xiaofeng, and Chu Bijuan convened in a secluded place. Once they left the hall, Long Yaifi showed Chu Bijuan proper respect. Grandmother, what has gotten into Regent Estate? Could you please enlighten me? This also concerned Xie Xiaofeng deeply. They knew Regent Estate was up to something, and it was not good by the looks of it, but he couldn't make heads or tails of it. Grandmother sighed and shook her head. Pavilion Lord Long, Abode Lord Xie, the 3 of us are in an alliance, so I'll be frank. You 2 are at the very top of Huangpu Tianyuan's blacklist. What? Startled, the 2 had guessed as much, but there was another thing to hear it from grandmother, a renowned figure among even the 7 houses. Chu Bijuan took a deep breath and resumed. I have dealt with the houses for all my life and can attest that I know every house's style like the back of my hand. Let's turn back to when we just entered the hall. You believed since Ling Wuchang spoke of the lords and subject that he was looking for you to follow Regent Estate blindly, right? Isn't that the case? The 2 asked together, shaking her head. Chu Bijuan sighed, her eyes focused. That was a test of obedience. Obedience? Precisely. The so-called lord and subject setup was in fact a way to lord over the masses. To sum it up, to judge obedience. The instant we entered the hall, it was made abundantly clear. Chu Bijuan squinted, her tone cold. Huangpu Tianyuan is too proud and he only wants those who obey around him. So when you saw the seats he had laid out for you, he expected you to take them without making a peep. Pavilion Lord Long may have been clever, but to him, it was all the same as not obeying him and putting you first on the blacklist. Long Yaifi never would have thought Regent Estate was so overbearing to impose his will even on the 7 houses. Xie Xiaofeng frowned as he nodded in agreement. I can see now why grandmother has been going along with his intentions. It was all to make Drifting Flower's edifice among the last to get rid of. That should be the case. Chu Bijuan nodded. Now that he believes the Bodhi root is with Zhuafan, and that I obey him throughout this whole farce. In his eyes, Drifting Flower's edifice should be behind your houses on the blacklist. Brother Xie, we must stay vigilant. Long Yaifi laughed dryly. Xie Xiaofeng nodded. What they thought would be a hidden alliance with Drifting Flower's edifice to make a joint covert attack, now became a full-blown and open assault. Suddenly, becoming the vanguard had placed a heavy weight on their shoulders. As if the vicious eyes of Regent Estate were fixed on them both, but they had to admire the Lady of Steel. Drifting Flower's edifice had now revived to the one of old along with Lady of Steel's recovery. For her to shift Regent Estate's main priority from them was a difficult feat to pull, putting these 2 in the first line of fire. Chu Bijuan knew what they were thinking and tapped with her dragon head staff. House Lords, do not think for a second you are shouldering Drifting Flower's edifice disaster alone. With you in front, Drifting Flower's edifice is indeed safe, for now. But we are all in the same boat. If one house falls, the ruin of the other 2 will only be a matter of time. The 2 bowed in profound respect. Grandmother has always had the greater picture in mind. We are ashamed. Now that we are allies in the truest sense of the word, we must devise a plan to stop Regent Estate's campaign. Chu Bijuan spoke in an imposing tone. His plan to use the demon purging decree was not to deal with demon Zhuafan, but take advantage of the chaos and swallow the 6 houses. But I knew his keen interest in Bodhi root and mentioned it. Also, he would give up on that notion. It won't last, however. Once he kills Xuefan and obtains the Bodhi root, the demon purging decree will be issued all the same. But wouldn't the death of Xuefan take away the sole reason behind the demon purging decree? Fool! Grandmother tapped with her staff, her tone dropping lower. Demon purging decree never had anything to do with Xuefan from the start. He is an excuse. And this excuse remains valid even if he kills Xuefan while the facts are hidden. I am convinced that Regent Estate had long since sent a team to deal with the kid. And since unwanted contriver Ling Wuchang is also lending a hand, I can only assume the worst. Long Yifei and Xie Xiaofeng nodded, hearts overwhelmed with shame. This was the Lady of Steel, a woman worthy of her title. In times of great peril, she was not a bit inferior to a man. Before the senior, the two house lords were naught but mere children that listened to her orders. All that Regent Estate is missing is to determine the limit of the imperial family. Only then will they unleash the demon purging decree without scruples. And this limit is none other than Windgaze City. Chu Bijuan's eyes focused and shouted. We do not know the imperial family's stance on Windgaze City, so we have to help them. We cannot let Luo clan fall. Qinger Peony, go and inform Huangpu Tianyu on that I, Pavilion Lord Long, and Abode Lord Xie have urgent matters to attend in our houses and have to leave. At once. The two overseers bowed. Chu Bijuan turned to the house lords. We must make haste and aid Windgaze City. The enemy must have forces in place already. I can only hope we make it in time. Grandmother, won't the three houses be moving together? We can't afford any delays. Chu Bijuan cut through their hesitation on the spot. Ling Wuchang is a shrewd man, and we won't be able to hide our cooperation from him for long. It's best we make it public and face them head on. This will also work to show that we are one, and not to be pushed around. Saying her piece, Chu Bijuan flew away. Long Yifei and Xie Xiaofeng looked at each other and laughed dryly. Lady of Steel is fierce indeed. The two house lords couldn't gain any word in at all. All they could do was follow her lead. She's a bit too fierce. And at this moment, three figures landed on a mountain outside Windgaze City. Guess who's back? Chapter 188 Fink. Chapter 188 Fink. With a deep breath, Xuefan overlooked Windgaze City, especially Blackwind Mountain. With a sigh for Luo clan's safety, its steward left on a 2-year journey. I wonder how they are doing? Old Peng's wraith art was a success or death? Xuefan's mind was filled with thoughts the nearer he got. He didn't realize when the Luo clan got to be so important to him. Elderly, you're not pulling my leg, are you? Regent Estate truly cancelled the demon purging decree? Vicious Pill King was on pins and needles all the way to Windgaze City. Li Jingtian forced a smile. This guy had asked him 100 times already, but no matter how he explained it, he'd come back to ask, again and again. Getting on his nerves, his eyes snapped on Vicious Pill King and roared. Kid, you're so old yet nagging me like a midwife. This will be the last time I'll tell you. I came voluntarily after you, not because Regent Estate issued the demon purging decree. At least, not before I left. If you asked me one more time, geezer, I'll tear your mouth off. Vicious Pill King jerked from fear. He remained quiet, but worry still plagued him. Xuefan had also got to know what the demon purging decree entailed this past 2 weeks and could feel Vicious Pill King's distress. Radiant stage experts were the ultimate power of any house, and the only way to use them was through a demon purging decree. Xuefan was certain Li Jingtian didn't come because of it, and lying to him was impossible. This martial fanatic really came just to steal cultivation methods, or the moment the old man saw them, Xuefan fight instead of letting himself be captured. Elder Yen, relax. Even if the demon purging decree is released, it won't be any time soon. We will still have time to prepare. Xuefan smiled. A sudden ripple spread from Windgaze City. Vicious Pill King was still out of it, but the other two felt it. Radiant stage? Their faces took a darker tone, especially Xuefan. Is demon purging decree really in effect? It was all too sudden. He and the elders had ways to safeguard themselves, but the Luo clan was powerless. Xuefan nodded at Li Jingtian, who searched with his soul. Under the cover of Li Jingtian's soul sense, Fan released his own. This would make the other side only notice Long's discerning field while Fan's was still hidden. This would give him a good opportunity to lay some traps if the other was an enemy. At any given time and place, Fan hid his cards to make a deadly strike on any who came after him. Li Jingtian had to admire Fan for his behavior. It was the first time he saw the kid this vigilant. While Li Jingtian was a martial fanatic, Fan would be a high-functioning sociopath, with killing always on his mind, but that stemmed from Fan always meeting difficult opponents. At the end of it all, Fan was still standing while all the others around him lay dead, and since the first thing that came to Fan's mind was killing, those people had to exhibit just a brief lack in judgment, and their lives were forfeited. Li Jingtian secretly signed, holding Fan in even higher regard. 3 Radiant Stage Experts. Li Jingtian frowned. Fan nodded. 2 in the 3rd layer, and 1 in the 4th. Not to mention, there are many profound heaven experts around as well. Wait, there's also those 2-inch. Fan snickered all of a sudden. I knew they were garbage, but had no good excuse so far. But this time, humph! Fan observed Blackwind Mountain in the distance. A glance was enough to reveal that the arrays he set up were activated. Easing his worries, Blackwind Mountain still holds. Well, I'll be, Luo clan is no pushover. Just from not being able to see through the arrays, I can tell it's no less than at a Regent Estates level. Even a Radiant Stage will have his work cut out for him. Li Jingtian scanned the Blackwind Mountain as well. The minute Vicious Pill King heard something about Radiant Stage experts being involved, he jumped the gun. 3 Radiant Stage experts in one go. This must be the Demon Purging Decree. Elder Yen, stop whining. Demon Purging Decree has nothing to do with this. Fan saw Vicious Pill King hysterical and shook his head. They would have attacked before the arrays were activated if the Demon Purging Decree was declared. But look at them, they're still waiting for orders. But why else are Radiant Stage experts included if not because of Demon Purging Decree? Because of me. Fan shot him a look. To make sure I stay dead, they laid a trap. Everything is taken into account, including the intervention of Veiled Dragon Pavilion. I can say for sure that once I set foot in Windgaze City, those 3 Radiant Stage experts will take my life. However, a creepy grin found itself on his lips as Fan turned to Li Jingtian. They'll never guess I still have a Radiant Stage expert on my side, and a 6th layer body cultivator to boot. Ha ha ha, with me here these pups won't take 1 hair from you. Li Jingtian laughed and jutted his chin with a raised eyebrow. Fan said evilly. Why stop there? Elderly, that would be a walk in the park for you. Li Jingtian pondered carefully, and his eyes took a savage tone. Then I'll just kill my way in and put them in their place. No. Fan smiled. Li Jingtian was confused. Steward doesn't trust my strength. Humph, forget about these weak bastards, when not even a Radiant Stage expert at my lair can take 3 hits from me. Li Jingtian's tone was mighty enough, but unclear if from confidence or overconfidence. Fan, however, still had the same smile. And what if I want Elderly to kill them as well? That. Li Jingtian frowned as he smoothed his beard. In predicament, killing those weaker than him was easy, but doing the same for those in the same stage was a whole nother matter. Taking Windgaze City's battle as an example, Veiled Dragon Pavilion's 3rd and 5th elders were far stronger than Hell Valley's elders, but unable to kill him no matter how they tried. It was all thanks to Fan's schemes, taking advantage of the enemy's carelessness, that he killed 2 elders. This was also why Veiled Dragon Pavilion was in so much uproar then when someone stronger couldn't kill them. Fan up and pulled off such an impossible feat, while 2 stages below. Not once, but twice, and now, Li Jingtian was finding it hard to answer Fan's request, grinning diabolically. Fan's eyes were on him. Elderly, I seem to recall you are still Regent Estate's guest, Venerable. Steward, my intentions are real. Li Jingtian was just about to explain his loyalty when he caught on to Fan's sneaky meaning. Precisely. No one yet knows of you standing with the Luo clan, so? Fan got closer to Li Jingtian's ear, who nodded now and then. Once done explaining, Fan stressed. Remember, don't go rambling about once inside. Slap them a couple of times and tell them to lay siege on the mountain. Got it. It's been so long since I played this role. Ha ha ha. Li Jingtian flew straight for Windgaze City. Zhou Fan grinned, disregarding Vicious Pill King's facial expression. Hee. When one looks for a Fink, quality is always preferred. And the ones you have found are some I can't wait to get rid of. Vicious Pill King had no clue what he was raving about as Zhou Fan pulled him towards Blackwind Mountain. Elder Yen, I'll take you to see the clan. Vicious Pill King's eyes sparkled and nodded. It is finally time to see the legendary clan. Meanwhile, in Windgaze City's Sun Clan's manor, those per-quality Finks Zhou Fan mentioned, Kai Rong and Kai Shouting, were sitting in a small room with evil looks. Humph, to hell with the Sun Clan, and to hell with Hell Valley. We've been running around Blackwind Mountain for so long, and even drew them a map. It's not our fault they couldn't see the guarding arrays, yet now, they give us the silent treatment. Kai Shouting nagged Kai Rong's side. Zhou Fan is incredible to set guarding arrays before leaving. But that damn Luo Yunchang is too paranoid, not having extended contact with outsiders. We had to turn traitors if we wanted to attack it. Haha, our map is useless now that the guarding arrays are up. No wonder everyone gives us the cold shoulder. Humph, Zhou Fan must have taught her before leaving. That bitch gobbles up everything Zhou Fan says. She is so loyal that she almost pushed the Luo clan head position on him. Kai Shouting raged, his eyes clouded in jealousy. Tell me, father, am I not, Kai Shouting, the grand young master of Kai Manor, better than that nobody? Why is it that Luo Yunchang never looked at me ever since Zhou Fan showed up? He's been gone for 2 years now, yet she pins for him every day by looking in the direction he left. There was not even a word of mention to me regarding the guarding arrays. Kai Rong regretted the more he saw his son complaining Zhou Fan was a true genius, admired even by the 7 houses. He would have long given his daughter to Zhou Fan if he had one instead. My son is in the 9th layer of Qi condensation yet, has not a bit of wisdom on him. Kai Rong shook his head when Sun Yufei burst in. The elders want to see you. Come with me. Startled, the Kai father and son turned happy, thinking they would meet Hell Valley's higher-ups. Their rise was just around the corner. Chapter 189 One Stronger Than the Last. Chapter 189 One Stronger Than the Last. Kai Clan's father and son followed Sun Yufei into the Sun Manor's parlor. Sun Yufei motioned for them to stop as she made a respectful bow. Elder, the Kai Clan father and son are here. Let them in. The cold voice sent shivers down the father and son's spines. Shuffling behind Sun Yufei with the courage of a mouse, they were about to meet a man of great power in the 7 houses, a grand profound heaven expert. One word from him would send their heads tumbling. They only just stepped through the door, and their knees hit the floor, soon followed by their heads. Salutations, Elder. I am Kai Rong, head of the Kai clan, and he is my son. Sun Yufei couldn't help but frown. She used to think Kai Shouting was a distinguished man of valor and pride. Only to find he had not one single bone in his back. She was the one leading them, yet, instead of letting her make her own gesture of respect first, they cut in front of her. Then again, hardly anyone in Tianyu didn't go on his knees when meeting an elder from the 7 houses, but this cowardice brought them to a whole new level of shameless she never saw before, earning her contempt. I must have been blind to have fancied you. The feelings were mutual for the middle-aged men sitting in the chairs across, holding them in even worse regard. Ha ha ha, this pair knows how to choose sides. The voice on their left made the Kai clan father and son look. It isn't just one Hell Valley elder that came this time? What they saw was an old man with blue hair nodding at them. He was mocking, being satisfied, and flashing in his eyes gave the father-son duo a weird feeling. Yan Jinglan, if you find them so capable, why not take them under Pill King Hall's wing? The man in the center teased. Yan Jinglan shook his hand and laughed. You Lao Lu, isn't it a bit rude to push these men who came to Hell Valley? Even to an inferior clan such as theirs, credit must be given where it's due and take them in your care. When a dog wags its tail, a master ought to throw it a pound of flesh, no? What are you guys doing wasting time on these fools? Ask what we came here for and let's get on with it. House Lord's messages could arrive any day now. The rude voice came from the two's right this time. They turned cautiously and saw a stout man with a beard and a blue robe and of imposing presence, another profound heaven expert. Ha ha ha, what crawled up your ass and died? Eulalu dismissed him with a smile. Lin Yueluan, among us 3 houses, Mary Wood's grudge with Shuafan is the smallest. So just sit tight. Maybe Shuafan has already been dealt with, and we won't be doing any attacking. We're not allowed to be here anyway. The other 2 caught his meaning and shivered a nod. The 2 from the Kai clan had long been sweating buckets. What the hell is wrong with this world? Why are 3 of the 7 noble houses here? I only recall swearing fealty to Hell Valley, not to 3 of them. Are we such a hot commodity that they're fighting over us? Ha ha ha, as if. Shuafan. They must have come here for revenge. Kai Rong gnashed his teeth, the hatred for Shuafan burning even hotter. In this backwater place, Lei Yuding handled the intelligence of the Luo clan, while the father and son remained in the dark regarding Shuafan's exploits in the outside world. He was smart enough to guess Shuafan poked his nose where he shouldn't to end up with 2 more houses on his tail. Wasn't that clear enough? He wanted to make it hard for these 2. Couldn't you have offended anyone else instead of the 7 houses? The original plan was to work from the darkness with the Sun clan for the Hell Valley and wipe out the Luo clan, presenting Windgaze City as a welcome gift. But the plan went up in smoke as Hell Valley suffered a crushing defeat instead. The Imperial Family's secret pearl order can go to hell for all I care. The 8th house is going to be the Luo clan, not my Kai clan. Why the hell should I give my life for them? But the arrival of Pill King Hall and Mary Woods told him their hatred for the Luo clan was no less than Hell Valley's. Why else would 2 great houses travel thousands of miles to Windgaze City, even when the Imperial family had put a ban on this area? In short, 1 house's ire became 3 houses' wrath. Selling the Luo clan out might have been able to appease 1 house's anger, but when there were 3, even if the Luo clan was burned to the ground, the remaining rage of the other 2 houses would be shifted onto the father and son. After all, they were once part of the Luo clan, no? Kai Rong was on the verge of crying. Shuafan is a genius to stir 3 hornet nests. What the hell did you do to offend 3 houses in just 2 years? The 3 elders didn't know the anguish and sorrow plaguing the poor father and son, not that they cared. Yen Laolu sipped his tea and shouted, Kai Rong, begin by telling me of the experts hiding in the Luo clan. Kai Rong was out of it for a second, then bobbed his head, on the verge of hugging their legs and begging for mercy. As for getting rewarded for his merit, that was long forgotten. Elders, the Luo clan is a second-rate clan at best. Only Grand Elder Lei Yuntian is a profound heaven expert, one that advanced 2 years ago. As for his goddaughter, Lei Yuding, and Captain Pang, they are all in the bone-tempering stage. While the Luo clan orphans, Luo Yuhai and Luo Yunchan, are even weaker. The rest are inconsequential, beneath elders' attention. Kai Rong blurted out as fast as he could, sometimes pausing, letting Kai shouting join the explanation. They spilled the beans on anything and everything that happened in the Luo clan over the past 2 years. The 3 elders looked at the 2 somewhat awkwardly. They all have seen their fair share of snitches, but never ever someone as useless as these 2. How did they even keep their vassal clan status? That's all. We have no need to know what flowers you planted on the mountain. Scratching his nose, Eulalu said. What of the 4 arrays? Do you know how to shut them down, or how to avoid them? Shuafan has set them up before his departure. We know nothing about them. Only after betraying the Luo clan did we find out of the array's existence. You have to believe me, elders. Fine, we believe you. To Kai Rong's panic, Eulalu gestured for him to stop. How could the 3 elders not believe such dedicated traitors? The elders nodded. They had a rudimentary knowledge of the Luo clan, so there was no point in asking further. Knowing how the 2 planted flowers behind the mountain or staking out the latrines for days on end would probably, most definitely, not reveal some groundbreaking secret. They thought just as they were about to ask the 2 to leave, 3 men suddenly broke in and the elders got shocked and rushed to bow. Greetings to the 3 venerables. What? Venerables? Isn't that a radiant stage expert? Gasping, Kai Rong brought his head even lower. He was so shocked he almost had a heart attack. Never had he entertained the notion there would be one here, much less see one in person. The only one they ever saw was the jade flute divine sword, Fang Qiubai. That man was following the third prince, and it was clear that he had no ill intentions towards them, while these three venerables wouldn't be as tolerant, killing them at a whim if they wanted to. The two didn't shiver in fear before the elders, but were now rooted on the spot. The venerables couldn't care less about ants, fixing their eyes on the elders. We detected 3 men outside Windgaze city. A bone tempering stage, a profound heaven stage, and a 6th layer of radiant stage experts. One venerable spoke. The elders were shocked. Why would such an expert come here for? Was he a friend or foe? Damn! The radiant stage expert is heading for us. A venerable shouted. Everyone was on edge right now, as even the elders broke out in sweat. A profound heaven expert was no different than an ant before a 6th layer radiant stage. The 3 venerables fixed their gazes outside this courtyard. The atmosphere was so heavy, no breath was heard, and the air grew thick. Kai Rong and his son were crawling on the ground, shaking like a leaf. If all the experts here fought with the newcomer, they would have no chance of survival. Boom! Shockingly, Mad Dipper, Li Jingtian slammed into the Sun Clan's yard, kicking up dust. Once it settled, his raging face was terrifying. Hey, aren't you? A venerable recognized him and pointed a trembling finger. He didn't get the chance to continue as Li Jingtian slapped him silly. The venerable was bent over as Li Jingtian shouted, "Fools, why haven't you attacked yet?" The others were dumbstruck, not caused by Li Jingtian's booming voice, but the suddenness of his slap. Who was this man to slap a high and mighty radiant stage expert, a venerable? Kai Rong and his son were paralyzed. Today had been an eventful day for them, to say the least. In the span of only 15 minutes, one stronger than the next kept popping up. It all culminated with the arrival of a radiant stage expert slapping a 7 houses venerable silly. Chapter 190. I told you to attack that mountain. Chapter 190. I told you to attack that mountain. All stood still as statues, not breathing, and mouth agape. The slapped venerable wobbled, then held his swelling face. Despite the rage coursing in his veins, he chose only to give a hateful stare. Why, you're that guest venerable from Regent Estate, Mad Dipper Li Jingtian. Why are you here? Didn't Regent Estate choose to stay out of this? More importantly, what's the meaning of this? The others gasped, with Kai Rong and his son appalled. No wonder he dared throw his weight around. He's from Regent Estate, the head of the 7 houses. But why would the Regent Estate take an interest in this backwater city? Don't tell me. That blasted Zhua Fan went and stepped on Regent Estate's toes. Kai Rong felt woozy. That filthy mongrel is nothing but trouble. This goes beyond only me dying. My entire clan will be uprooted. It suddenly hit him that even if he hadn't sold out the Luo clan, Zhua Fan would sooner or later have them disposed of. 2 years of hard work and schemes had just gone down the drain. Of course, Li Jingtian snapped back in a higher tone. You have the gall to question me? If you weren't standing around with your hands down your pants, Zhua Fan wouldn't have sneaked through that array that even my soul sense can't penetrate. What, Zhua Fan escaped from 6 profound heaven experts and yourself? You're saying he's back? Why haven't we noticed then? Another venerable cried out. Li Jingtian stared him down, before giving him a resounding slap as well. Be quiet, or people might think you're an idiot. They were all too shocked to even speak. Elderly was just as the rumor painted him to be, a mad dipper, and had an even worse temper. Especially now that a bone-tempering cultivator like Zhua Fan actually slipped through his fingers. Opening one's mouth now would only make one a target, and you went ahead and pointed out his failure. No wonder you got slapped. What they didn't stop to think about, however, was that all of this was part of Zhua Fan's cunning plan. Looking at it from a different angle, Li Jingtian's sudden arrival in Windgaze City was full of warning signs. Putting aside the fact that Zhua Fan slipped past a 6th-layer radiant stage expert like Li Jingtian and returned to Blackwind Mountain, and not even the 3 radiant stage experts felt him. There was clearly something off about this. In spite of all the glaring faults, Li Jingtian's venting scared all these suspicions away from their minds. It devolved into taking Li Jingtian's words as solid gold this way. Zhuo Fan had them all follow Li Jingtian into his trap. Every able body is to follow my lead and attack that mountain. Li Jingtian barked as his cold eyes swept them. The three venerables hesitated with a frown. Elderly, we have yet to get word from the House Lords. We can't. Cut the crap. Why have the three of them sent you here if not to get that damn Luo clan? And Li Jingtian emphasized with another resounding slap. I am here, so why are you still frickin' hesitating? I told you to attack that mountain. Do it, and you'll gain merit for it. Don't. Li Jingtian snorted twice for good measure and flew at Blackwind Mountain. The three slapped venerables looked at each other in consternation. They finally gnashed their teeth and followed. Their reticence was about Regent Estate using the three houses to test the imperial family's limit. So, the Regent Estate had sent 2 of their elders to kill Zhuo Fan and not a single one of their men to Windgaze City. It was the same as saying, they had no hand in this if it went belly up. So, the 3 venerables were awaiting their house lord's orders, but now, Li Jingtian came, who represented Regent Estate. Since he dared to attack, they had to follow. At worst, the Regent Estate would be leading the charge. This sounded like a solid plan to the 3. As they only had their house's benefits in mind, they chose to put all the discrepancies aside. For example, they clearly sensed 2 more people with Li Jingtian before. They had questions like, who were they? And if he chased Zhuo Fan all the way here, why was one of them in the bone-tempering stage? However, they chose to ignore all these important and obvious issues. Or more aptly put, they'd never speak up even if they did come to mind. After all, were Li Jingtian's slaps so refreshing that they wanted more? This way, the 3 cowardly venerable came aboard Li Jingtian's rocky ship on the 3 elders' side. They could only laugh bitterly and follow as well. Now that their venerables joined the front, they had no excuse not to. The only ones left were 3 people, Kai Clan's father and son, as well as Sun Yufei. Kai Rong sighed as he followed the experts fly away. Today opened my eyes. I've never seen so many Radiant Stage experts in one place before, and even a venerable from the great Regent Estate is here. One stronger than the last. Even those 3 profound heaven elders were naught but ants before the 4 experts. Humph, look who's talking. Who was it that was shaking in fear earlier? Sun Yufei made her contempt known. Kai shouting was annoyed. Sister Yufei, Kai clan has always been on friendly terms with the Sun clan. Why are you suddenly so antagonistic towards my father? Humph, you're no different either. A deadbeat. You, Kai Shouting's face was aflame from rage, his knuckles white. It was obvious he couldn't put a lid on his anger, and wanted to take this former goddess of his down a peg, but a sudden sound made Sun clan head's arrival known. He turned his attention from the big hole made from Li Jingtian's landing to the empty yard. What happened? Where are the elders? Sun Yufei chose to ignore Kai shouting and explained to Sun clan head what happened. Sun clan head grabbed Sun Yufei and livened his step. Yufei, we're going to Blackwind Mountain. Whatever for? Sun Yufei was stunned. Foolish girl, it's to cheer on the elders and venerables, of course. Sun clan head laughed. Remember, if you want any of them to notice you, you have to put on a decent show. Kai Rong raised an eyebrow and dragged his son along as well. Dad, are we? As if. The Sun clan lorded over us all because they had a relative in Hell Valley. With 3 elders and 4 houses venerables here fighting, it is our best chance at making ties with one of them. The Sun clan had Hell Valley's backing and, who knows, we might get Regent Estate as a sponsor. We'll see then how tough they'll act around us. Kai shouting nodded fiercely. Dad, you're right. Will that son bitch dare look down on me then? Kai shouting felt himself filled with the desire to fight, putting more power in his legs and going faster than even his dad. Kai Rong relaxed seeing him. My child is all grown up. This way, the 2 clans outdid themselves in kissing the asses of the 4 houses. They were afraid these backers of theirs might get snatched by someone else. Inside Blackwind Mountain's hall, a pale Luo Yunchang sat cross-legged. She had worked hard in her cultivation these last 2 years, but she was still only a peak chi condensation cultivator. For one person to sustain 4 large arrays day in day out was a heavy burden. Next to her was Lei Yuntian, as well as Captain Pang and some others. Seeing their usually healthy and energetic young miss now looking haggard, pain laced their hearts. "Young miss, please take a rest. They arrived in Windgaze City for a month now and still have not attacked. There shouldn't be a problem if you take a breather." Captain Pang's face was filled with black energy as his aura leaked without realizing it. Yet, even so, tears welled in his fierce eyes. Smiling slightly, Luo Yunchang's lips seemed pale, yet her smile ever bright. "Sister Lei is still hard at work with scouting, right? The enemy has at least 3 profound heaven experts, along with even stronger people among them. All our attempts to find out more about their side have proved fruitless. I'm afraid if they chose to attack, we might not even have the time to activate the array. Girl, you can't keep this up for much longer." Lei Yuntian sighed. "It's all my fault for being powerless and letting you suffer like this." For a girl to shoulder the defense of a clan when disaster strikes, makes me realize how useless this Grand Elder is. Uncle Lei, don't beat yourself up. You and Captain Pang, along with Sister Lei, have worked tirelessly for the Luo clan to thrive. I couldn't do anything to help you up till now. So allow me to at least do this for our clan. Luo clan is my home, and you are part of it. I saw it laid to ruin once, and I'm not going to stand by and see it happen again." Luo Yuncheng's sad tone had them all sighing. Luo Yunhai looked at his sister. "If only Brojua was here, it would have all been fine. He always had a way out of any crisis." The eyes of the others trembled and softened. Lei Yuding bit her lip in. "This damn brat kicked up a storm for us and still hasn't come back. He must be living it up out there." "Sister Lei, don't say that. Shuafan must be rushing over as we speak." Luo Yunchang frowned slightly. "We must defend our clan and await his return." "Yunchang, he is actually—" Captain Pang's scowl and the shaking of the head had Lei Yuding swallow her words. She had been in charge of intelligence for the Luo clan and knew fully well of Shuafan's love life, but refrained from sharing it with Luo Yunchang. Luo Yunchang looked puzzled. "Ah!" she cried out. "What's wrong?" The others were frantic. Luo Yunchang's brows quivered as her eyes revealed shock. "I lost control over the poison dragon array in the east." "What?" Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Chapter 191 Stand as One. Chapter 191 Stand as One. Whoosh! 4 figures flashed before Blackwind Mountain. Li Jingtian and the 3 venerables they watched 4 pillars of different light shoot into the sky. The 4 mists wrapped the mountain so closely the 4 could only sigh when their attempt at scanning it was futile. "I am amazed to see such intricate arrays in such a place. It may very well be better than the guarding arrays of our houses. It's hard to imagine how a third-rate clan would know such skill." One venerable sighed. The others did the same, including Li Jingtian, but he did it out of excitement. Why wouldn't he, when this was his new patron? With another sound, Yen Laolu, Yen Zhenglan, and Lin Ruffeng arrived as well. Seeing as all joined the war effort, Li Jingtian pointed at the poison dragon array. "You 3 elders, go deal with that array. The venerables are with me." Li Jingtian flew into the black flame array in the south. The venerables only shrugged before going after him. As for the elders, they had even less right to complain, especially when the venerables complied. And since he was a Regent Estate's venerable, the aftermath would fall on him anyway. They entered the array but had complete disregard for safety. "Humph, a 5th-grade array can't stop a profound heaven expert, least of all 4 venerables." Yu Laolu mocked as they entered the poison dragon array. "Damn!" On Blackwind Mountain's hall, Luo Yunchang jumped to her feet and made the others grow nervous. "What happened?" Luo Yunchang took a deep breath to calm down. 4 experts entered the black flame array in the south. They only just entered it, and the array is on the verge of collapse." "What?" The others gnashed their teeth with sinking hearts, and before Luo Yunchang even realized, the poison dragon array got out of her control as well. It was most likely broken through. And now that there were 4 even stronger enemies going into Black Flame Array, Blackwind Mountain would soon be flattened. "Let me go meet them!" Lei Yuntian couldn't just sit around doing nothing and rushed outside. Luo Yunchang cried behind him. Uncle Lei, I can't see how strong the four are even as they are in the array. They may be beyond the profound heaven stage. You are not their match. Lei Yuntian faltered for a second, then he stepped firmly. He vanished soon after, but not before saying, Luo clan almost perished because of me. Now it is time I pay that debt with my life. Run, I will hold them off. The others looked down, their hearts forlorn. They knew of the guilt plaguing Lei Yuntian. He gave his all these past 2 years and was now going to his doom, just so he could protect the Luo siblings. Ha ha ha, Elder Lei, since when can one man hold back so many? Allow me to join you. Captain Pang laughed, following after him, Captain Pang. Tears welled in Luo Yunchang's eyes, grinning. Captain Pang laughed emboldened. Elder Lei can sacrifice himself for the Luo clan after being here for only 2 years. But I, who had been living in the Luo clan's grace for my entire life, can't? If only I could see my brother one last time. Lei Yuding patted Luo Yunchang's shoulder. The latter looked at her with a grim look and a bad feeling. Sister Lei, you don't mean? Nodding, Lei Yuding smiled faintly. I am immensely grateful for Godfather's kindness. I can't let him die alone. Just ha ha ha, Yunchang, do me a favor and give that brat 2 slaps for me. That's what he deserves for not returning to send me off to my death. And Lei Yuding left for Black Flame Array. Despite how desolate she looked and unreconciled, perhaps not seeing that man one last time weighed heavier than she realized. Seeing everyone vanish into the mist, Luo Yunchang's eyes grew hazy from tears. Her brother spoke. Sister, are they giving their lives for us? Nodding, 2 trails of tears slowly formed down her cheeks. Luo Yunchang hugged Luo Yuhai as she whispered. Yuhai, we may not have a dad, but we still have a home. They are our family. Look for Brother Zhuo when you're out. He will definitely protect you. Sister, what about you? Luo Yuhai blinked, puzzled. With a poignant smile, Luo Yunchang added, Yuhai, do you remember the teachings of our ancestors? Of course, steadfast and righteous. We cannot let their sacrifice be in vain. But I will have to stay and control the arrays to help them. With unyielding resolve, Luo Yunchang pushed Luo Yuhai away as she rushed to her duty. Sister. Luo Yuhai wailed. Luo Yunchang didn't look back, only spoke. Go find Zhuofan. Inside the Black Flame Array, Li Jingtian's group saw the infernal black flames capable of gnawing bones sped towards them. Since they were Radiant Stage experts, a flick of the wrist repelled such a meager attack flooded by endless flames. They could only sigh. Such a rare 5th grade array, with incredible power as well. A pity the user's control is weak, unable to bring out even 1% of its potential. Or even the 4 might have had a hard time getting through. A venerable sighed a node. He was glad the enemy lacked a true expert. If these 4 5th grade arrays each had a Radiant Stage expert controlling them, Blackwind Mountain would have been a steel fortress not even Regent Estates experts could push through that hum. A sudden ripple passed, and they looked at the source to see Lei Yuntian coming closer. Who's there? A venerable shouted, snorting. Lei Yuntian barked. Luo clan's Grand Elder, Lei Yuntian. He's a Grand Elder? Raising an eyebrow, they looked at each other and burst out laughing. A Grand Elder was usually the clan's strongest elder. But it was obvious from a mile away that Lei Yuntian just entered Profound Heaven stage. What Grand Elder? Humph, Luo clan is nothing but a 3rd-rate clan, or a 2nd-rate at best. There's no one strong in it at all. It was so weak that it wasn't worthy of the 4 venerables' intervention. They were only sent here because of the 4 arrays. Li Jingtian blinked. To him, the Luo clan ought to be an obscure clan that was stronger than even the 7 houses. Why does the clan have a freak like Zhuofan, but its elder is so? Then it hit him and secretly laughed. A 5th layer of bone-tempering cultivator like Zhuofan managed to kill 6 Profound Heaven experts and escape unscathed. This elder is only in the 1st layer of Profound Heaven stage, but he can kill a Radiant Stage expert, no? With the Steward a monster, the elder has to be at least a freak. Snickering, he patted a venerable's shoulder and pointed at Lei Yuntian. Go and shut this geezer's trap. He, elderly, it will be my pleasure. Bowed and swung a fist straight for Lei Yuntian. Li Jingtian snorted, You moron, Don't let Luo clan's cultivation fool you, or you won't even know what killed you. Since Xuefan was a freak, then the entire Luo clan had to be a den of freaks, and yet, reality was such a letdown. Boom! Lei Yutian raised his hand in defense, but the light blow had him sprawled on the ground and coughing blood wide-eyed. Li Jingtian's smile froze on his face. What kind of Grand Elder are you if you're not a freak level, at the minimum? Xuefan had stressed time and time again to look after the Luo clan's members. But this martial fanatic heard this old guy was a Grand Elder, and it got to his head, thinking the old guy's power was through the roof when in fact, the old man was just as his cultivation stated, a common profound heaven expert. Unlike the excessive Xuefan, Li Jingtian's face darkened. How was he going to explain this to Xuefan? Was his promise worth nothing? He, I didn't even warm up yet and you're already dying? So weak. If not for this array limiting my senses, I wouldn't have wasted time with you and dirty my hand. The Venerable wiped his hand. He had the power to kill Lei Yutian in one hit, but it was obvious he liked to play with his prey. Such humiliation had Lei Yutian spit more blood. Whoosh! A sudden black figure flashed before Lei Yutian. Lei Yutian cried, "Captain Pang!" Grinning, Captain Pang shouted, "When enemies storm the gates, when home is in peril, it is the captain of the guard's duty to defend it. How can I let Elder Lei do it alone?" "Me as well!" Lei Yuting flitted next to him. Lei Yutian was moved, while the Venerable snickered. "Humph, you're not even in the profound heaven stage. You just came here to die. Humph, we'll make sure you taste hell before we do." The sudden shout had the black fire form 8 dragons and charge at the Venerable. He had no time to react as he was engulfed in flames. It was also then that Luo Yunchang appeared. Chapter 192 Snare. Chapter 192 Snare. "Young miss, what are you doing here?" They looked shocked as she appeared and started going through gestures. Luo Yunchang smiled. "We are a family. We live together, we die together." They all trembled and felt immense gratitude. It was worth dying for a clan that valued them so. "But what of Yuhai?" Lei Yuntian staggered to his feet with a pale face. Bitterness flooded Luo Yunchang's face, but soon replaced it with a smile. "It's fine. He's grown up now, almost entering the chi condensation stage. I had him go look for Xuefan. He will be safe with him." Luo Yunchang may have said so, but anyone could see it worried her. Still sighing, the others began worrying as well. Luo Yuhai was but a child. Searching the empire for Xuefan was fine as long as he did find him. But in this world danger lurked at every turn. "Ha ha ha, are you guys talking about that brat?" A cackling came from the black fire pyre. With a boom, the flames were repelled and the Venerable walked forward. "Humph, your steward dared to kill 7th Elder, and has been sentenced to death. No matter where he runs, we'll be close behind him. As for you, Luo clan, you have committed a heinous crime for bringing such evil into this world. Not one shall be spared. I will find even that kid of yours and grind his bones to dust. You won't even spare a child?" Luo Yunchang gnashed her teeth. The Venerable snickered. "Not even if he is a baby. I will kill him where he stands, without the slightest hesitation." Luo Yunchang was enraged as she clenched her hands. Then, a sudden childish voice came. "You don't need to look. I'm right here." The others looked in shock at the speaker. "Yuhai, what are you doing here?" Beaming a wide smile, Luo Yuhai spoke with unbending courage. "Sister, our Luo clan's ancestors taught us to be steadfast and righteous. I cannot let you throw your lives away just so that I alone may live." Heart stirring, his clansmen looked at Luo Yuhai with an indescribable look. Even Li Jingtian had to sigh. In the end, Luo clan was admirable, maybe not the strongest by far, but they had loyalty first and foremost. "I was wrong. Was this what Steward Zhuo meant when he said this clan was the best in the world?" Li Jingtian sighed. But even now, he misunderstood what Xuefan meant. There was no way a demonic emperor like Xuefan would value affection. The meaning of his words were, "Wherever I am, that place is the strongest." But that was all unimportant. Here and now, Li Jingtian didn't join Xuefan's gang because he was forced, but from seeing the Luo clan's spirit. He felt that the Luo clan of now was far better than the 7 houses. Ha ha ha, since all of Luo clan is here, then allow me to send you off, permanently. With a mad cackle, the Venerable's eyes flashed with bloodthirst, while the other 2 behind snickered. Luo Yunchang's heart was ready for battle. If you want my brother, you'll have to go through me. Luo Yunchang's hands moved. The black fire started swirling like a tornado, with that Venerable at its center. She clearly wanted to swallow him in a sea of flames. Black fire storm! And yet, the Venerable was standing there with an unfazed look as he waited for the black fire to storm him from all directions. Then, a soul ripple echoed out, extinguishing the black fire into nothing. Luo Yunchang was forced to spit blood. Under the anxiousness of her clansmen snorting, the Venerable mocked. This 5th grade array of yours is pretty good. Too bad, your cultivation is too low. You're not even a bone-tempering cultivator, and your control is sorely lacking. But now you no longer have time for regrets, for I am here to send you on your last journey. The Venerable stretched his hand, making Captain Pang and the rest tense to take the brunt of the attack. He knew very well how fruitless it all was, yet he still wanted to uphold his duty until the very last moment. Suddenly, there were 2 groans and the Venerable's movement slacked. He turned his head in inconceivable shock. Luo Yunchang was also wide-eyed. Their eyes reflected 2 blood-red fists coming out of 2 people's chests. The 2 Venerables in the back were still laid back and enjoying the drama. They were just about to witness the end of the Luo clan when they suddenly felt their life ebbing from their chests. Jerkingly turning their heads back, their eyes reflected the cold and unfeeling face of Li Jingtian. Elderly, warehouse. The dead don't need to know. Snorting, Li Jingtian flicked his hands and the 2 Venerable fell in pieces. The black fire soon engulfed them and ground them to ashes. Gasping from shock, the last Venerable was filled with suspicion. Why is this Regent Estate's Venerable killing us? I don't remember any of our houses having offended Regent Estate. But the truth was laid out right in front of him. Not only did Li Jingtian murder them, he had planned to do so for the very beginning. After all, no matter how strong he was, it was impossible for him to kill 2 masters of that cultivation level in an instant. Such a task can only be accomplished by a sneak attack. Elderly, what is the meaning of this? The last Venerable ignored the Luo clan and cautiously sizing up Li Jingtian. The cold and meticulousness of his sudden strike had him filled with dread. It came without warning. Snapping his eyes on the Venerable, Li Jingtian snorted. Fool, are you that thick in the head? You've been duped, strung along. Need I say more? What? The Venerable was overwhelmed but had no time to make sense of anything. Li Jingtian was out to get him, and if he didn't run now, his end was certain. He, a 3rd layer of Radiant Stage cultivator, could flaunt his strength before the Luo clan, but that fell through the instant he faced Li Jingtian, a 6th layer of Radiant Stage body cultivator. It wouldn't take even 5 exchanges before he'd splatter the ground with his blood. Thankfully, their cultivations weren't that far apart, and Li Jingtian could do nothing to stop him from running. No sooner thought than done. He bolted to escape the array while Li Jingtian was calmly making hand signs. Suddenly, Luo Yunchang cried as she felt her control over the black flame array wrested from her grip. The black flame array roared to life like an erupting volcano, forming firewalls to box everyone in. The Venerable didn't fly far as the firewalls forced him to retreat. When he looked intently, he was scared out of his mind. The black flame array was suddenly used to its full power. If before there were only some tongues of black fire around, now there was a sea of lava in every direction. Not even a Radiant Stage expert had hope of getting out now. If just a spark touched him, he'd be soon nothing more than a charred corpse. Shivering from fear, he turned his head to see Li Jingtian making signs. The Venerable stammered. Elderly, why do you know how to use the array? The same question was on Luo Yunchang's mind as well. Snickering, Li Jingtian's eyes flashed with bloodthirst. Moron, I told you already. You've been had. I thought of drawing you into the array, then trap you here. He, didn't you find it odd how the array was so weak? But with me in control, don't you find it strong? He, let me clue you in. I'm with the Luo clan. Steward Zhuafan himself invited me into the Luo clan as its elder. What? This was shocking news to any who heard it, But the Venerable went pale from fright. Luo Yunchang's group was floored, finding it impossible to believe such a miracle had graced them. Zhuo Fan went to recruit experts. He said so just before leaving 2 years ago. But who'd ever expect it would be one of such caliber? Heavens, this radiant stage expert shot the Luo clan from a mere clan, all the way into the rank of a house. Their shock was completely and utterly understandable. In another location, the 3 elders entered the poison dragon array and already felt the miasma growing thick. Yan Jinglan pulled out some pills. "This is a poison-repelling pill for each of you." They all took one and kept an ever-watchful eye on the surroundings. Then 2 figures entered their sights. One was around 40, with black hair and a black beard. None of the 3 recognized him. Only Yan Jinglan had a nagging feeling of déjà vu. The other person was but a bone-tempering stage youth. They were startled instantly as they took out the Hell Kill order. "It's him, Demon Archon Zhuo Fan." Zhuo Fan seemed as if only now discovered the trio and clapped in laughter. "Ha ha ha, everyone's finally here. I've been waiting." Faces dark, the elders felt bitter. They knew of the havoc he stirred in Drifting Flowers City, killing 3 experts and ruining another's hand. They had no hope of winning, not to mention, they were in his array. Blast it. The Venerables should be meeting this punk, not us. Why did it have to be us? I knew I should have picked another array. They felt close to tears as they pinned their final hopes on having the 4 radiant stage experts hurrying with breaking through the array and coming over to help. Like that'll ever happen. Out of their knowledge, the 4 had long fallen in Zhuo Fan's trap, with 2 already dead and the last one making one last-ditch effort before succumbing as well. They were having a hard time saving themselves, yet they were putting their meager hope on someone in an even worse state than them. Chapter 193 Vicious Pill King's Reemergence. Chapter 193 Vicious Pill King's Reemergence. Zhuo Fan easily picked on the 3's thoughts and jeered. "You should all lighten up and be thankful that all of you are unworthy of me ending you personally. Not with your meager strength. The one all of you shall have the honor of facing is our Pillhouse Elder." Zhuo Fan patted the elder's shoulder. "Elder Yan, they're all yours." "Ha ha ha, don't worry, Steward Zhuo, these old goats are nobodies. I'm more than enough for them." Yen Song laughed, bringing out the old vicious Pill King's haughty demeanor back out. Zhuo Fan nodded and chuckled before leaving. The 3 elders' faces were pitch black. As the saying went, death before dishonor. Even though they were all far beneath Zhuo Fan's match, his utter disregard of them had their minds filled with nothing but rage. By the way, who was this cocky Uncle Zhuo Fan left them with? "We don't know what hole you crawl out of, nor do we care. But who do you think you are to talk to us like that?" "Zhuo Fan?" The 3 stared daggers at Yen Song. The latter was quite relaxed and confident. "Old coot, state your name." "I do not kill without knowing my opponent's name," Yu Laolu coldly stated. The other 2 watched Yen Song with the same desire, to rip him apart. Grinning, Yen Song's eyes glinted evilly. "Humph, I'm afraid of making you wet your pants if I do." "Oh? Do enlighten us please as to what other circus clown the third-rate Luo clan has besides your freak, Zhuo Fan." "Ha ha ha." The 3's laughter dripped sarcasm. Squinting, Yen Song's mouth curled in pride. "Then unclog your ears and prepare to be amazed. I am Yen Song." "What?" The 3 were dumbstruck, with bulging eyes and everything. Especially Pill King Hall's Yan Jinglan. His eyes were as big as saucers. They all knew Yen Song fell at the hands of Zhuo Fan in the chaos of Drifting Flowers City. How the hell did he end up here, and as Luo clan's Pill House Elder no less? When Yan Jinglan and Lin Ruffam came from their stupor, they looked at Yan Jinglan. He was the only one here who was most familiar with Yen Song, being from the same house and all. He should spot immediately if that man was the real vicious Pill King. After a long and hard scrutiny, Yan Jinglan gasped. "Vicious Pill King, Elder Yen Song! It's really you!" Eulalio's heart trembled and his face grew solemn. No wonder this geezer mocked us. While he was known as the Vicious Pill King, they were truly and utterly titleless. "Why, Yen Song? Why did you betray Pill King Hall?" Yan Jinglan shouted. Yen Song had only mockery for him. Vicious Pill King had followed the natural course and died in Drifting Flowers City from Shuafan. And from his death, Yen Song was reborn. Tell me, where's the betrayal? Besides, with me out of the picture, isn't the Vicious Pill King title up for grabs? Humph, I'm not naive. Don't tell me the Pill King Hall didn't break out in celebration once they heard of my death. Yen Jinglan stammered in silence from his reaction. The others knew Yen Song told the truth. No wonder he betrayed Pill King Hall. He had nothing holding him there, no relation to speak of scratching their nose. The elders' eyes exposed a fierce light with everything clear. Any argument from them would do nothing in bringing Yen Song back. In that case, they had to go through Yen Song if they wanted to clear the array, but Yen Song's old title still gripped their hearts in fear. Old Yen is an expert in poisons. It is my domain as well. I will hold him, while you two flank him from the sides. We have to end this swiftly. It will be hard to get to him once he hides behind his rainbow cloud palm. Yen Jinglan signaled the two as he whispered. The two nodded. Yen Jinglan then shot like an arrow for Yen Song with an outstretched palm. A python made of purple miasma came out and threatened to bite Yen Song. High spirit ranked martial art, shifting cloud palm. His mouth tracing a cold smile, Yen Jinglan mocked. Humph, Yen Jinglan, an inept like you who can't use the rainbow cloud palm dares to play with poison around me? 7 colored veils of mist flew from Yen Song's palms like dragons, forming a rainbow storm, crushing the purple python and rushing for Yen Jinglan. Humph, now, this is Pill King Hall's real skill, profound ranked martial art, rainbow cloud palm. Yen Jinglan focus sharpened and forehead started to ooze cold sweat. However, he was in no rush because he knew that he was going to be sacrificing himself suddenly. Yu Laolu and Lin Ruffin appeared left and right of Yen Song. Yen Jinglan laughed. Yen Song, you're done for. You're exposed before you hide in the rainbow cloud palm's poisonous mist. I may not train in your martial art, but I know it like the back of my hand. And you will suffer dearly for it. Yu Laolu and Lin Ruffin had vicious grins, thinking this win was in the bag when the Grand Vicious Pill King fall under their attacks. Who would anyone dare call them without a title in the future? Although, Yen Song's face didn't seem particularly worried. As the two's palms inched closer, he made a hand sign and 2 dragon roars echoed out. Suddenly, 2 groans came as 2 dragon tails jumped from the earth and sent the 2 men barreling. Yu Laolu and Lin Ruffin were still trying to make sense of everything. They were just inches from striking down Yen Song when out of the blue, their bodies were flung about like garbage just as they smacked the ground 200 meters out. The rainbow storm engulfed Yen Jinglan. Boom! Yen Jinglan flew a full 100 meters as he spat black blood. His body was now filled with the deadly poisons of the rainbow cloud palm. Yu Laolu and Lin Ruffin crawled back to their feet. They felt weary for some odd reason and looked down in shock. The green vestige on their body was evidence of poisoning. How? The 3 roared at the same time. Yen Song snickered with an evil glint in his eye. Yen Jinglan, you aren't useful even as bait. You take me for a sitting duck if I'm not hiding in the rainbow cloud palm mist? He, did you forget where we are? This here is a 5th grade array, the poison dragon array that I am able to control. Here, I can create all the poison mist I want. Your plan failed the moment you thought it out. Yen Song made another sign roar. 7 dragon roars were heard as 700-meter-long dragons of different colors came from beneath his feet. Their maws were open and the poisonous stench was easily felt coming from their fangs. If not crushed to death in their grip first, the poison would rip them apart from the inside out. The 3 cried in alarm. Yen Song alone was bad enough with his nefarious poison, but now, with this 5th grade array, he was invincible. Not even a radiant stage expert could escape him, least of all them. The 3's hearts sank as despair set in. Yen Song cackled like mad, just as he did back in the Drifting Flowers City. That rampant vicious Pill King was back. Yen Song's ego even grew, if that was possible. Because he had the 5th grade array, he was God. Not even a radiant stage expert can take me on. Ha ha ha. In another place, Sun Clan's father and daughter along with Kai Clan's father and son finally came to Blackwind Mountain. Since flying was not an option, they had to rely on their tiny legs to run themselves into exhaustion, but as they gazed upon the four light pillars, hope glimmered in their eyes. Cough, cough, congratulations, sixth elder, for your complete success. Sun Clan Head panted, then cupped his hands and bent his waist 90 degrees down angle. Sun Yufei felt awkward. Father, there's no one here. What are you doing? Ha ha ha, foolish girl, the elders are cleaning up the Luo clan and would surely gain many contributions for this. As those experts move fast, I fear that my nerves may get to me when the time comes to congratulate them and my manners would slip. It's best I practice my performance for when it counts. Sun Clan Head smiled. Yufei, let's do it together for a brighter future. Sun Yufei's mouth twisted in revulsion. Congratulations, elderly, in returning victorious. Suddenly, Kai Rong bowed as well as he mocked Sun Clan Head. If you want a sponsor, you have to think big. Elderly is a regent estate venerable. Everything will be ours once we earn his favor. He, shouting, practice along. Kai Rong patted Kai Shouting's shoulder. A chip of the OL block, Kai Shooting's gesture was spot on like his father's. Sun Yufei felt more disgusted than ever. Sun Clan Head sneered. Kai Clan Head, you sure are ignorant. But what can you expect when you haven't been in touch with the 7 houses and know nothing about them? A venerable may be strong, but they ignore house affairs. Only elders hold the true power in a house. Your ass-kissing has more worth directed at an elder. They are the ones who can make you a vassal clan. Sun Clan Head spoke with immense pride. Kai Rong scowled and smoothed his beard as he sank in his thoughts. Then, a lazy voice reached them. Ass-kissing must be done in style. One wrong kiss and you'll get the gallows. I mean, won't you offend the venerables if you only do it to elders? And if you flatter the venerables, won't the elders feel irritated? What a dilemma. Why not both? You may get nothing, but at least you'll keep your heads. Good point. Clan Head and Sun Clan Head looked at each other, then bobbed their heads. Only then they reacted. Who said that? And turned to look. It was better not knowing. They cried out with such fear, one may think they saw a ghost. Zizi Zhuafan, why are you here? Chapter 194 Total Victory. Chapter 194 Total Victory. Who knew when Zhuafan got there? Surely not them. But his seamless interjection in their discussion unnerved them all. Ha ha ha, lighten up. I'm the same as you, I came here to welcome guests. Zhuafan waved the awkwardness away with a smile. Though his smile looked dreadfully cold to the rest, it was practically common knowledge 4 houses, Regent Estate included, came here explicitly for Zhuafan's head. Yet, the 4 venerables and the 3 elders were inside trying to break the arrays. All while he was standing just outside for the heck of it. The Sun and Kai people looked at him, feeling his toying with the 7 houses was worthy of applause. Swallowing dryly, Kai Rong ventured a nervous reply. Zhuafan, I have always had the Luo clan's benefit in mind in all my actions. Hear me out please, and leave quickly. If the venerables come out, you won't stand a chance. Oh, I never knew Elder Kai would, after betraying the Luo clan, care so much for me. Ha ha ha, I'm touched. Zhuafan raised a mocking eyebrow. Kai Rong reddened, feeling the condescending tone, but he didn't snap back. His reply was one of genuine concern. Zhuafan, Luo clan's misfortune has come because of you. Why did you come back? I am concerned for your well-being. Don't let your talent go to waste. Quickly escape. Kai Rong was very concerned but still urged Zhuafan to leave even when facing the demon Archon, who was such a thorn in the 7 houses' side. This third-rate clan's head was filled with uncertainty. Or he'd long since captured Zhuafan and handed him over. The Sun Clan Head was thinking along the same lines, but since youths were rash as usual, their kids couldn't see this logic. Kai Shouting stood with his chest out as he shouted. Dad, he's only a 5th layer of bone-tempering cultivator. Why waste time and just go deal with him alongside Uncle Sun? Get his head and the 7 houses will hail us as heroes, ha ha ha. Quiet, fool! You know nothing! Kai Rong glared at his son. Sun Clan Head sneered as well. He didn't know what Zhuafan did to get on the 7 houses' bad side, but the old fox in him knew something was up. It was best to stand down until all was made clear, lest he wanted an untimely death. Xuefan raised an eyebrow. Oh? Taking my head, you say? That's a good plan. No, 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 that was never our intention. Gesticulating like mad, Chiron was on pins and needles. Shouting is a foolish child. I promise you, we aren't your enemies. Please leave quickly. Leave before the venerables are back. Ha ha ha, them coming back? Xuefan's tone was unbridled. I set those arrays and know them like the back of my hand. If even one man escapes my head, bam! With a loud noise, a figure flew from Poison Dragon Array, so poisoned that his body had 7 colors on him. His mouth was tight, yet black blood kept flowing from his lips, ears, and nose. It was hard to figure out who he was, but Chiron knew as he cried, Pill King Hall's Elder Yen. Xuefan's cheek twitched. He just got into his role of showing off, and then, this guy had to come out just to spite him. Fuming mad, he stepped right before Yen Jinglan. The fearful Elder Yen was only thinking of escaping when he found someone just ahead. But then dread set in when he saw his face. Zizi Xuefan? How did you get here? Xuefan's mouth trembled, but anyone could feel the coldness in his voice. The rage boiling deep within Yen Jinglan shivered. I took advantage of Yen's song not paying attention. It would have been so much better if you died inside. Now your corpse is going to be in pieces. Sighing, Xuefan's lightning wings crackled and shifted into sickles. Yen Jinglan's shock was still prevalent on his face as he fell in 6 pieces, soaking the ground in blood. SSS. Gasping, the others were shocked out of their minds now. They knew why the 7 houses wanted to end Xuefan so desperately. A profound heaven expert fell apart instantly thanks to Xuefan's skill. Even wounded, how could a bone-tempering cultivator kill a profound heaven expert? Kai Shouting felt weak in the knees, tumbling down. He hated himself for those brash words he spoke just now. Telling his dad to deal with this freak was the same as sending him to an early grave. Chiron and Sun Clan head were soaked in sweat. At least these old foxes had their wits about them from the start, and weren't rash. If they had been anything else, their meat pile would soon be joining the elders on the ground. Whoosh. Flashing before them, Xuefan looked quite awkward. Just forget the last part. Alright? Yep, you bet. Don't know what you're talking about, Steward Xue. Ha ha ha. Yeah, my ears must be playing tricks on me. The 4 of them shook their heads till they were dizzy. Xuefan smiled with a second sound. Another figure popped out of Poison Dragon Array, but this time, it was Vicious Pill King. He took in the pieces of Yen Jinglan, and the cold-faced Xuefan, catching the gist of it all, scratching his head. Yen's song giggled. Thanks, Steward Xue, for helping me get rid of that one. It would have been much harder for me alone. Elder Yen, you let one escape with your skill? Xuefan smiled coldly. Yen's song's scalp felt numb. Steward Xue, I was careless. He was also an alchemist, so… Elder Yen, do you have any idea what I was just about to promise these guys? A head, ha ha ha. So tell me, whose head is it going to be? Ignoring his words, Xuefan's cold glare stared him down, shivering. Yen Song knew this time. It was serious. Steward Xue was flaunting before these guys, but then, his show deflated like a balloon, and so did his prestige. Of course he'd be pissed. Swallowing dryly, Yen Song had a cruel smile for them. Steward Xue, that's easy. Isn't it just some heads? Aren't there 4 heads lining up for the taking? Good point. With them dead, no one will know about your blunder. Yep. Yen Song smiled and nodded. Chiron's group was scared out of their wits. They kneeled and begged forgiveness, while also cursing them inside. What kind of damn unreasonable freaks are these people? What they didn't know was this vicious demon wouldn't have made a name for himself if he was reasonable. Shaking his head, Xuefan waved. Forget it. Don't scare these shrimps. Elder Yen, what of the other 2? Dead? Yen Song was solemn, nodding. Xuefan turned to the 4. All right, take these 4 in. I want to leave them for that snot-nosed brat to handle. And teach him how to be a clan head. Understood. Vicious Pill King pointed and finger at them, and the 4 were chained, soon flying behind him as he entered Poison Dragon Array. A ripple spread and the black flame array in the south opened to reveal Luo Yunchang and the rest. Li Jingtian was leisurely walking behind them. Zhuo Fan eased a breath seeing everyone safe. The battle was now over. Big bro Zhuo! Luo Yunhai cried and skipped over for a fierce hug. His tears soaking Zhuo Fan's clothes. Zhuo Fan noted with a smile. Feeling warm and fuzzy inside. Looking up, he found Lei Yuntian and Captain Peng looking at him with fervent gazes. The two nodded, and Zhuo Fan laughed. Old Peng, I'm relieved to see you still kicking. Captain Peng knew what he meant and laughed as well. Steward Zhuo, if I am to die, I will do it fighting for the Luo clan. Never will I waste away in training. Then Zhuo Fan turned to Lei Yuding with a smile. Miss Lei, how are the people I asked you to train? Lei Yuding huffed and gave him a sound slap in return. Zhuo Fan was stunned. What did I say? But then he saw her teary eyes. Damn you, bastard! You finally came back and instead of asking if I was fine you went straight to business? Lei Yuding wailed. Zhuo Fan blinked. That does make a lot of sense. So he smiled. Ha ha ha, Miss Lei, how have you been? Bam! Then another slap graced his face. Zhuo Fan was now floored. What the hell? I asked how you are, so what's the problem? You want me to pay respects to your whole family? Lei Yuding glared instead. Too little, too late. Reeling from the blow, Zhuo Fan was almost coughing blood at this point. This girl's too fickle, I can't make sense of her heart. The others smiled at his misfortune. Li Jingtian joined them, never having seen the cunning steward was so soft-hearted. Shaking his head with a sigh, Zhuo Fan really couldn't get her. It's best I don't talk at all. When they separated, Zhuo Fan looked to see Luo Yunchang fumbling towards him with a pale face. Zhuo Fan frowned. Young miss, are you hurt? Luo Yunchang only locked eyes with him, as if to see straight through his heart. Ice-cold hands touched his face, as her eyes stared at him with emotion. Zhuo Fan, welcome home! Luo Yunchang's eyes closed and collapsed in his arms. Young miss! The others were worried. Zhuo Fan stood there in a daze. The Luo clan was considered his clan since rebirth. But he never once saw it as his home. When Luo Yunchang said those words, they struck a chord in his thawing heart. Chapter 195 Mean Steward. Chapter 195 Mean Steward. The warm glow of the morning sun spilled through the window and into the pink room. Luo Yunchang's eyes trembled open, but the glaring sun's rays made her squint. Young Miss Luo, are you awake? Luo Yunchang turned to see Lei Yuding's servant, Xiao Shui. She was happily bringing in piping hot stew. Luo Yunchang weakly got up. As Xiao Shui placed the bowl on a nearby table, Luo Yunchang nodded gratefully for her help. Xiao Shui, where's Sister Lei? Miss and Steward Zhuo are in a meeting. She told me to watch over you. She also had me make this stew for you. Zhuo Fan. She didn't seem to have heard her as Luo Yunchang shivered, having recalled something. She then broke out in a wide smile. Yeah, he's back. I'm going to see him. Slow down, young Miss Luo. You're still very much weakened. Please have this stew first. Steward Zhuo isn't running anywhere. I don't care. I want to see him. Luo Yunchang was so excited all the fatigue left her as she jumped out of bed. Xiao Shui sighed, left with following after her out of worry. The two soon arrived before Blackwind Mountain's hall, hearing Zhuo Fan's familiar voice from within. Elder Lei, how is your cultivation? Zhuo Fan asked as he browsed the books. Lei Yuntian replied in disappointment. I am muddled, and have not advanced one layer in 2 years. But I feel I will break through soon. Muddled indeed! Zhuo Fan's cold tone cut his frail tone short. But his eyes were still checking the reports. Thought it's not your fault. It is hard for someone as old as you to advance. Lei Yuntian forced an embarrassed smile. Steward Zhuo is so blunt, not sparing any feelings. Lei Yuding saw her godfather put on the spot and slapped the table in anger. Zhuo Fan, where are you going with this? While you were gone for the last 2 years, we had to look after the Luo clan. And now that you're back, the first thing you do is point fingers. And you! Zhuo Fan threw a book before her as he spoke coldly. When I came back yesterday, you said I cut straight to business instead of greeting you. That I was cold. So I spent all day catching up with what you have been doing over the years. But today, I need to resume my role as the steward. Snapping his eyes on her, Xuefan pointed at the book. I told you to form a shadow corp before leaving to become our hidden ace as well as our eyes and ears in Tianyu. Why is it that all you managed to contact are some small towns and some villages? You didn't place anyone in the capital, not to mention the 7 houses cities. Humph, you think it's that easy? Huffed Lei Yuding. 10 times I've sent people into Hell Valley City, but they were seized every time. Thankfully, they were loyal to us and died rather than say anything. Or Hell Valley would have been upon us a year ago. Oh, did you not see how it's done when I got into Drifting Flowers City? Xuefan raised a taunting eyebrow. Lei Yuding spat through gnashed teeth. Don't you even start. Just when I was close to forgetting. Steward Zhua had gone out for the glory of the clan, but never forgot to spare certain someone his feelings, quite carefree I might add. If my men had even half your skills, they would have infiltrated the whole empire by now, even the palace. Whatever you may think, I did it all for the clan. Xuefan scratched his nose. Captain Pang grinned, adding his 2 cents to smooth things over. Ha ha ha, young Miss Lei misunderstands. Brother Zhua's thinking is unfathomable. I'm sure Brother Zhua had a good reason for letting those rumors appear. Look, didn't he bring back 2 experts like he promised? And you, old Pang. Xuefan butted in before Lei Yuding could nag some more. Captain Pang was startled, and swallowed drily, feeling cold sweat down his spine. Now it was his turn, it seemed. None of them knew the refined Xuefan, who planned to put the Luo clan back on its feet, would be so mean because Captain Pang cultivated the wraith art. The vibe coming from him was that of a fiend. But before Xuefan, he was nothing more than a mouse in front of a cat. Although the 2 were like brothers, Captain Pang still shivered whenever he saw Xuefan acting high and mighty. Who knows what fault this kid will find now? Brother, I done awesome. Out of all expectations, Xuefan beamed. He was happy as well, while the rest sullen. What did Captain Pang do that is so awesome? Our efforts aren't lower than his. Xuefan elaborated with a grin. When I gave you the wraith art, I didn't even think you'd survive. You not only survived but even exceeded my expectations. Then why the hell did you give it to me then? Captain Pang's face twitched, not knowing if he should be glad or enraged. You gave it to me thinking I'd die? Knowing what he was thinking, Xuefan patted his shoulder. Ha ha ha, don't you worry now. You are reborn as one of Luo clan's pillars. Captain Pang nodded solemnly. Defending the Luo clan had been his aim all along. Having talked with his men, Xuefan looked at the small figure at the side the board. Luo Yuhai noticed his eyes and shivered. He felt danger in his gaze, as if a viper was out to get him. He, big bro Zhua, I'm still a child. Cut me some slack. Luo Yuhai opened his big naive eyes like an oversized kitten. Too bad this trick didn't fly with a demon like Xuefan. Grinning, Xuefan looked like a ghost from the underworld. You rotten brat, how's your cultivation? Why ask when you already know? Luo Yuhai felt a shiver down his spine. Big bro Zhua, I'm in the 9th layer of foundation establishment. On the verge of breaking through. He also gave Captain Pang a sign, who added, Steward Zhua, young Master Yuhai has only been cultivating for 2 years. To reach such a level is a feat worthy of a genius. Oh, not bad indeed. How many hours a day did you cultivate? Xuefan nodded with a smile ever present. Luo Yunhai's eyes darted around, then raised 6 fingers. 6 hours! Captain Pang was startled, then nodded. That's right, young Master Yuhai cultivated in earnest. Good, then from now on you'll do it for 20 hours a day. Xuefan's smile was wide as ever, causing the others to gasp. Wouldn't the poor kid die of exhaustion training for so long? Luo Yuhai was dumbstruck. He immediately shouted his complaints. Big bro Zhua, I'll die. Hardly. By feeding you pills each day, death will long be forgotten. Plus, as the days pass you'll get used to it. Xuefan laughed. He recalled how his master did the same for him, his lower lip trembling. Luo Yuhai was on the verge of tears. But that would leave me with only 4 hours to rest. What about playing? Who told you have 4 hours to rest? Raising an eyebrow, Shuafan added. 2 hours is enough, while the rest is for reading books. How are you going to be a clan head if you're stacked in all the right places except in the head? Luo Yunhai's eyes rolled into his skull and slumped in his chair. The others sighed secretly. Shuafan wasn't mean to just them but even to children. No wonder he was called Demon Archon in the outside world. Vicious Pill King and Li Jingtian were staying quiet, but hearing Shuafan's verdict, even they shivered. Then they looked at Luo Yunhai with all their sympathy. Is it a blessing or a disaster? No one can tell. The cruel steward set his eyes on the poor child. He was dead set on making him the Luo clan's next in line. Yet, his future wasn't as glorious as any true future clan head, but one of a miserable childhood. But with Shuafan's wicked planning and the kid's talent, his future was bound to be limitless. This could be counted as his only blessing. After a few more words, Shuafan told them to withdraw, leaving only Vicious Pill King and Li Jingtian behind. As for Luo Yunhai, he walked out like a zombie, feeling like the whole world abandoned him. Such a young child was showing such despair. Shuafan ignored him as he poured himself some tea. Young miss, since you're already here, you might as well come in. Chapter 196 The Four Tigers of Tianyu. Chapter 196 The Four Tigers of Tianyu. With graceful steps, Luo Yunchang gestured Xiao Chui to stay as she entered alone. Her softened gaze had been on Shuafan all this time. Shuafan smiled as he rose. Young miss, are you better? Luo Yunchang didn't speak, only nodded slightly. Shuafan took a deep breath out of awkwardness. He gestured to the other two and smiled. Ha ha ha, let me introduce you, Elder Yen Song. He will be Luo clan's pillhouse elder. The other is Elder Li Jingtian, the elder in charge of the arrays. As long as he operates the 5th grade arrays, no one can break through them. Blinking, Luo Yunchang now realized there were 2 more people there and rushed to greet them. The elders returned her greeting as well, and yet, Li Jingtian still had pride in his eyes, while Vicious Pill King was downcast. Shuafan's face turned solemn. Are you perhaps not satisfied? Vicious Pill King was the one who replied. Steward Zhua, the Luo clan you describe is not at all as we've seen. We just found out that the Luo clan has no elders, and that is only around a second-rate clan. Vicious Pill King sighed. What he thought to be a titan in hiding, stronger than the 7 houses, was more along the lines of a damn frickin' third-rate clan. Li Jingtian sighed as well. He could feel the loyalty of this clan, but the reality failed to rise to his expectation. By a huge margin. Shuafan glared at them. I never said anything about the Luo clan's extent when I invited you in. You accepted my invitation of your own free will. But Steward Zhua, you said the Luo clan is the strongest clan in Tianyu. Are you saying it's my fault? Shuafan cut Vicious Pill King off and scared him with his sudden reply. Luo Yunchang bowed again. Elder Yen, elderly, first of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude for joining the Luo clan. I know we are a small clan, unfit of your greatness, but please believe me, with Steward Zhua and you, the Luo clan will become better and stronger. We, the Luo clan, will not disappoint you. If you still want to leave, I will not stop you. Luo Yunchang's heartfelt words touched the two. You 2 old coots better goddamn suck it up. Then came Shuafan's cold tone. While Luo Yunchang's words were that of a fairy, Shuafan's were that of a demon wanting to feast on their flesh. You may dislike how weak the Luo clan is, but I promise you, in 5 years, I will make the Luo clan rise to the level of the 7 houses. And in 10 years, it will exceed them. If you want to leave, hump. Getting into the Luo clan is easy, but getting out will be done through the mud, cold and very much dead. Shuddering, the elders could feel Shuafan's bloodthirst. Just looking at him, they knew he wasn't kidding. If they tested Demon Archon's anger, today may very well be their funeral. Sweating, Li Jingtian and Vicious Pill King dropped to one knee. Young Miss Steward Zhua, we were only joking. Don't take it to heart. Luo Yunchang was shocked. She may be the young miss, but how could she receive such gestures from the elders? Not to mention, one was in the profound heaven stage and the other in the radiant stage. She rushed to get them up. Please rise, elders, this isn't proper. But Luo Yunchang could do nothing if they refused. Sneaking a glance at Zhuofan, they noticed his ever stone-cold face and lowered their heads. He may be quite courteous to them usually, but when it came to such principles, he was dead serious. If they couldn't appease Zhuofan's anger, their lives were forfeited today. Luo Yunchang turned to Zhuofan and said, Zhuofan, you. Squinting, Zhuofan spoke. I will let this matter rest here on account of young miss. But I'd better not hear of this again. Now leave. Thank you, Steward Zhua. Thank you, young miss. Sighing, the two bowed again and ran outside. It seemed they had to get much closer with this young miss of theirs. She may be frail, but she could keep that steward in check. Our very lives depend on it. Luo Yunchang was left stunned at how quickly the two bolted. She had no idea Zhuofan could control a profound heaven expert and a radiant stage expert. The two experts were like shy kids before Zhuofan. What she didn't know was that if she could control the bloodworm as well as he does, she'd receive the same treatment. Forget about whining, they wouldn't even make a peep. Turning to Zhuofan, Luo Yunchang revealed a broad smile. Zhuofan, why do I feel you're more amazing than 2 years ago? I almost can't recognize you. But weren't you a bit harsh on them? Sister Lei and the others worked hard all this time. I know, and I am very pleased with their progress. They gave their all and exceeded my expectations. Zhuofan's smile was no longer cruel. Luo Yunchang was even more puzzled now. Then why did you? Ha ha ha, as leaders, one must mind both gratitude and show of power. I know how grateful you must have been for their hard work, so when I came back I showed them power. How else would they know who is the leader of the Luo clan? Zhuofan's eyes were deep. Luo Yunchang hesitated. But they are family, going through thick and thin alongside us. Must we be so hard on them? People change with time. If your power does not change, then you must be wary of everyone around you. Today, they may be your most loyal men, and tomorrow, your worst enemies. Just like how the 7 houses were subjects to the empire at its founding, now they are a danger to it. Zhuofan grinned with cruelty. Luo Yunchang watched him long and stammered. Zhuofan, you're truly frightening. Will there also be a day when you'll become our enemy? Perhaps. Zhuofan chuckled. I would rather die at your hand than see you as one. Luo Yunchang's eyes flickered. Zhuofan trembled and sighed. Who can tell what the future holds? Silence swept the hall, bringing a morbid atmosphere with it. It was now that Luo Yunhai rushed in tears to Luo Yunchang. Sister, that's not important right now. Big Bro Zhuo wants to kill me. Resting for only 2 hours is impossible. Startled, Luo Yunchang recalled how her brother was the most hardworking of them all. Steward Zhua, don't you think 20 hours a day is a bit? You don't have to say it, young miss, I am doing it for his own good. A bit of sweat now will save a lot of bloodshed later. Or you can just stop him from following the wishes of your father. Yuhai, stop complaining and follow Steward Zhua's schedule. Luo Yunchang snapped at the child. Luo Yunhai's eyes rolled into his skull and passed out before Zhuofan came. His life was still bearable. Now that he was here, he entered hell. Zhuofan shook his head. Meanwhile, at the foot of Blackwind Mountain, 4 tall and stout figures stood. One was in a blue robe and cowl, with a twin mustache, and holding a light sword. Another wore a scholar crest, and waved a golden fan. His eyes were so calm as if even the world burning wouldn't affect his tranquility. The third man was brash and big, with fiery hair and eyes holding sparks within. One look was enough to tell anyone he was a powder keg primed to blow. As for the last, he was unlike the first 3. He was twice as broad as a normal man. From his bulging muscles, one would instantly consider him a body cultivator. Yet his narrow eyes were quite delicate. Standing there, he looked no different than a firm mountain. The 4 watched the 4 guarding arrays, and their eyes shined in shock. No wonder Godfather sent us thousands of miles here to their rescue. This place already houses an amazing figure. The man in blue turned to his side to ask, What do you think of these arrays? With a snap, the second man opened his fan and spoke calmly. The intricacies of these arrays are hard to grasp. But as long as a profound heaven expert or higher is in control of them, not even the 4 of us can escape. Blast it! Then we've traveled all this way for nothing? They clearly have their defenses up. The red-haired man shouted. The man in blue berated. Third brother, orders are orders. And they were given by the marshal himself. Whether this place is a volcano, or an impenetrable fortress, we still have to go in. Have you forgotten the taste of the marshal's cane when you entered a drunken rave last time? The red-haired man stammered but remained silent. The man in blue nodded, then cupped his hands towards Blackwind Mountain as he shouted. The 4 generals under Marshal Dugu extend their respects to Luo clan head. His lofty voice traveled for miles, straight into Zhuofan's ear. His ears peaked. Zhuofan's eyebrow rose. Why has war god Dugu, second of the 4 pillars, sent his men all the way over here? Could it be? Chapter 197 War God's Advent. Chapter 197 War God's Advent. Young miss, take the kid to his training. I'll go take a look. Zhuofan looked to Luo Yunchang. She gave a nod, then dragged Luo Yunhai out by the ear. The marshal of Tianyu may have come, and despite the ever-present shock, Zhuofan was here to assuage all her worries regardless of the magnitude of the coming storm. Nothing could last long in the face of Zhuofan's meticulous planning. This belief had evolved into blind faith in the man, a faith deep-rooted in the hearts of all Luo clansmen. Dragged away and through glistening eyes, Luo Yunhai's last cry at Zhuofan was, Big bro Zhuo, you single-handedly ruined my life. You twerp who hasn't ever grown hair down there, what ruin? Zhuofan teased. He turned to look down Blackwind Mountain and took slow steps downhill. With a ripple, the poison dragon erased miasma parted. Zhuofan walked before the 4 as he sized each one of them. I am Luo clan steward, Zhuofan. And sirs. Oh, we are the 4 generals under Marshal Dugu. Hearing of the Luo clan's peril, he ordered us to rescue you. Greetings, I am Dugu Feng. The man in blue cupped his hands. The man with the fan did as well. I am Dugu Lin. Dugu Hua. The red-haired stout fellow rumbled a reply as for the last and the biggest man. Dugu Shan. Wind, forest, fire, mountain? The 4 tigers of Tianyu? Zhuofan cried as he started making calculations in his mind, smiley face reference to 4 phrases from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. As swift as the wind, as gentle as a forest, as fierce as fire, as unshakable as a mountain. He had heard his fair share of stories regarding the renowned 4 pillars. Second of the 4 pillars, Dugu Zhantian, was married to his military career. He had no children, but 4 godsons of great bravery and power. Given their talent, they weren't the least bit lacking to the geniuses raised inside the 7 houses. Perhaps even surpassing them, the 4 had repeatedly rendered great military services that earned the people's gratitude in the form of the 4 tigers of Tianyu. Titled Dugu Feng, the eldest, was swift as the wind and excelled in surprise attacks, nicknamed Storm Tiger. Dugu Lin, the second, was as gentle as a forest, knowing the art of war by heart. For his calmness of mind, he was known as Crouching Forest Tiger. Dugu Hua, the third, burned like fire, and was just as blazing in temper as well. For his boldness, he was known as Raging Tiger. Dugu Shan, the 4th, was as steadfast as a mountain, hard as stone. Proficient in defense, he was known as Mountain Tiger. No endeavor the 4 had worked on ever failed. They were almost matching the god of war in their renown. Many times, the emperor expressed his desire to lift them to the ranks of commanders, and join Dugu Zhantian in becoming Tianyu's 5 marshals, only to refuse each time. They would rather stay as Marshal Dugu's tigers, rather than be alone as Tianyu Empire's 4 lion kings. They were always inseparable from Dugu Zhantian. If the 4 of them arrived, then Dugu Zhantian. Checking his surroundings, Zhuofan's obvious thoughts were easily noticed by Dugu Lin, who tapped the fan in his palm. Steward Zhuo, there's no need for you to look. We are the only ones here. Our orders carried us thousands of miles to rescue you all. Marshal Dugu and his forces are running a little late, I'm afraid. Oh, so Marshal Dugu is gracing us with his presence. Zhuofan nodded and laughed. I understand. Then I shall inform the young miss and young master post haste. You may return. Zhuofan waved as he left. The 4 were startled, even shocked, the four of them were hailed as the 4 tigers of Tianyu everywhere in the empire, with even the 7 houses bound to showing them some respect. But here, in this backwater Luo clan, not only were they not allowed entry, the door was slammed into their face. To top it all off, he even said he'd informed someone. Wasn't this a little bit too absurd? Rage had stirred in the hearts of the 4. Dugahua, who had a notoriously fiery temper, cursed on the spot. What kind of steward are you to act so unreasonably? We came all this way to help you, yet not only you did not show any appreciation, you even slammed the door behind you. That is no way to treat a guest. Guest, you say? Zhuofan quirked an eyebrow, turning his head to give them a closer eye. You're telling me you came to save us, and I'm supposed to believe that? We just had a hard battle on our hands not a couple of days ago, with blood and bodies everywhere. Letting you in might drown the Luo clan in flames. The 4 gasped. So the steward wasn't slighting them, but was overly cautious. That reason was enough to dampen their rage. Dugufeng cupped his hands again. We are Marshal Dugu's 4 generals. He has always been a frank and open person, and we are under strict orders. We are not the enemy here. Are you perhaps doubting Marshal Dugu's integrity? Marshal Dugu is a pillar of our empire, in charge of defense, which my clan admires him greatly. Our young miss and young master burn incense and pray every day for Marshal's health, to keep our nation safe. Zhuofan cupped his hands at the heavens, shouting with zeal, just like a true Dugu Zhantian fanba. His action earned the nods of the 4, even approval points. It's good that the Luo clan holds our Godfather in such high regards. It makes our trip worthwhile. Then Zhuofan flipped his tune out of the blue. His face was cold, his eyes accusingly. And how am I to know you are the real 4 tigers of Tianyu? Have you seen how many copycats have cropped up nowadays? Please look over Marshal Dugu's token. Dugufeng quickly offered a copper badge. But Zhuofan didn't even glance at it, only curled his mouth. Like I said, there are many copycats around these days. If you yourself can't prove who you are, what good would a token do? Hey, stop messing around, punk. Us 4 tigers of Tianyu have roamed the empire for so many years, but not once has there been a case of someone copying us. You only have your ignorance to blame for not knowing who we are. You won't let us in, is that it? Wanna see how I make my way through, breaking those arrays of yours? Dugahua barked, having reached his already short limit of his slight patience. Zhuofan staggered back, putting on a perfect fearful face. See? You now show your true colors and still dare pretend? Marshal Dugu's army runs under strict orders, bearing the love of the people. How can there be such brash people wanting to barge into someone's home in his army? You're no different from bandits. You, Dugahua gnashed his teeth. Dugufeng frowned and shouted. Third brother, stop nagging. Are you going to stain Marshal Dugu's name by charging into one's home? Dugahua glared at Zhuofan with burning hatred, but his feet remained in place. Dugufeng bowed. I apologize for my third brother's lack of courtesy. Please do not take it to mind, Steward Zhua. Can you trust us now? Trust? Humph, you almost had me there, but fortunately, I caught on to your game. Is that how Marshal Dugu's generals behave, playing the good guy bad guy routine? Flushing red, the 4 were left speechless. Even Dugahua found it so embarrassing that he forgot to complain. Zhuofan snorted. Didn't you say Marshal Dugu is on his way? We'll just have to wait for him to prove your identities. With that said, Zhuofan vanished into the poison dragon array, and the miasma blocked the 4's sight. They wanted to shout at him, but he was already gone. The 4 were left downcast behind. Who'd ever seen it coming? They, who were revered even in the 7 houses, were now forced to stand on the doorsteps of some backwater Luo clan, and they couldn't complain either. The clan just went through a hellish battle and their nerves were taut. And best of all, the Luo clan was a die-hard fan of the marshal. How could the 4 burst in and ruin their godfather's image? Sighing, Dugahua turned to Dugufeng. Big brother, what do we do now? What else? Stay in a Windgaze city's tavern. But how are we going to give a full report to Marshal when we can't even get in to assess the situation? We'll report facts. Dugalin shot Dugahua a glare. Luo clan is more than it seems. It's best we wait for Marshall's personal intervention. The others' hearts chilled, recalling the 4 fifth-grade arrays, and nodded, putting aside this place having such astonishing arrays. The fact the order was sent for the 4 tigers to come here was proof enough of the real threat that the Luo clan was under. Yet, even after going through such a gory battle, it was clear from their steward's appearance that the clan wasn't suffering so much. This pointed out that the Luo clan was more than met the eye, being generals themselves. The 4 could tell of this mysterious clan's power in another part. Xuefan returned to the hall and convened with the rest. Great changes happened throughout the clan as entire rooms were thrown into chaos. He made the 4 tigers back off just so he could make preparations. Since the 4 pillars were here, there was no way they were gonna miss this chance of leaning on a great mountain. Yep, it was all about clinging to power. Although, different tactics were needed depending on the target. Xuefan's methods weren't as crude and tasteless as those narrow-minded Kai and Sun clans. He wanted Dugu Zhantian to be eternally tied to the Luo clan. Luo Yunchang watched the people rush about as they were close to tearing down the whole of Blackwind Mountain. She turned to Xuefan in puzzlement. What this? Xuefan said before she could continue. Young miss, you're just in time. Tell that kid to switch from cultivation and hit the books for the next few days. Read what? Luo Yunchang was dazed. Xuefan grinned. Just some matters of circumstances, like war books. Achoo. Not 100 miles out of Windgaze City, a wizened man rode his large horse when a sudden sneeze caught him off guard and a shiver ran through him. Guard, how long until we reach Windgaze City? Everywhere around him was crawling with thousands upon thousands of soldiers. A general close by reported. Marshal, we will arrive in 3 days. The old man nodded, but the frown never left him. I have come out of countless battlefields with honors, so why is it that this small Windgaze city is putting me on edge? Chapter 198 Welcoming. Chapter 198 Welcoming. 3 days later, Xuefan was in a small room, checking Luo Yunhai's progress and reading. Suddenly, the earth began to rumble like a huge earthquake. Xuefan raised a brow, focusing his attention outside, only to be shocked at what he saw. What an aura! He is indeed the god of war. Xuefan rose to his feet and shouted. Everyone to your stations! The Luo clan's safety for the next few years at stake here. Understood. The men outside the room replied, having already gotten ready as they scrambled. Xuefan turned to Luo Yunhai with his devious grin. Kid, you're up now. You better had learned your part. Luo Yunhai's face sank. Big bro Xue, do I have to? What do you think? The room was soon engulfed in Xuefan's evil cackling. Outside Windgaze City, the 4 tigers of Tianyu were already waiting for the orderly and impeccable military procession marching towards them. It was like a dark cloud without an end. The shaking of the mountains was due to the huge army. On the battlefield, any man, even a profound heaven expert, would shudder in face of such might. Leading the army was a huge man on a horse, his beard swirling in the wind. Despite reigning in his power, his mighty air and unbending nature were hard to conceal. He was the second of Tianyu's 4 pillars, marshal of Tianyu's armies, god of war Dugu Zhantian. He was in the 6th layer of the radiant stage, yet the whole of Tianyu considered him the strongest. His 4 godsons were also peak profound heaven experts just based on the loyalty of his million men. Not even the regent estate would dare slight such a man. Despite regent estate having experts with higher cultivation than him, once Dugu Zhantian sent an order, his million soldiers were like an unstoppable flood of steel. Even regent estate's venerables would have a hard time dealing with such a barrage. To unite all these weak soldiers, to make them act as one, that was what it meant to be a true god of war. For this reason, the 7 houses were afraid of the marshal, the head of the 4 pillars, Zhuge Changfeng. Who told them to allow him to amass such power? In this case, drowning one with numbers couldn't be a more apt description. Generals welcome Marshal! The 4 gave a deep bow. Dugu Zhantian nodded. What's the situation? Is the Luo clan safe? The Luo clan is at peace. Dugu Feng spoke heavily. Dugu Zhantian nodded a sigh. It's good we arrived in time. We did not fail His Majesty. Was there anyone making it hard on them? Before we arrived, it would seem that the Luo clan had suffered a sneak attack. Dugu Feng mumbled. Dugu Zhantian raised an eyebrow, his eyes staring back at him. What? Then how are they? What are their losses? What about the attackers? Any prisoners? What of Luo clan head? Dugu Zhantian shot questions nonstop at the bitter, looking for how could they know when the Luo clan had slammed the door in their faces. Dugu Feng braced for reprisal as he reported. Marshal, we are in the dark. What? Dugu Zhantian blew his top. Then what have you been doing over the past few days, idling? Feng'er, that's unlike you at all. They'd been stationed at the borders for decades to prevent the Qianrong armies from invading. Yet, the Emperor decreed him to go to Windgaze city's rescue. He knew this matter was of utmost importance, so, on his march here, he sent his 4 most trusted generals ahead to provide timely assistance. Only to find them idling about these past 3 days, and knowing absolutely nothing. And these were Dugu Zhantian's 4 tigers no less. Humph, you must have let the wine get to your heads and caused a scene. I'll settle your punishment later. Dugu Zhantian flared, almost wanting to do it now if not for delaying his rescue operation. Dugu Lin bowed, flustered. Marshal, please hear us out. Having been told the ins and outs of the matter, Dugu Zhantian was staring dumbstruck. There are 4 5th-grade arrays in this backwater area? Dugu Zhantian blinked and started scouting ahead with his sole sense. And sure enough, he found 4 arrays surrounding Blackwind Mountain blocking his search. Dugu Zhantian was shocked. No wonder the Emperor told me to come in person. There must be a mighty figure among them. Sighing, Dugu Zhantian turned to the 4. Now that you couldn't enter, I no longer blame you. Marshal, who said we can't? If not for Big Brother stopping me, I would have torn down those damn arrays long ago. Dugu Hua roared. Dugu Zhantian berated. You're a disgrace. How dare you charge into people's homes without an explicit order? If you had dared charge inside, I would have had your damn head for defying orders. Marshal, I was only venting. Don't take it seriously. Dugu Hua ducked his head in shame. The other 3 secretly snickered. Dugu Zhantian cut in. Marshal, the Luo clan steward said he will let us in after you arrived. He must mean for you to personally go inside. Eh? Dugu Zhantian burst out laughing. I have come at the order of the Emperor to take a look at this Luo clan as well. But since there's a mighty figure inside, I would also like to meet him. He dismounted and strode towards Blackwind Mountain. Pass my order. The army is not to disturb the people and are to set camp 10 miles southeast of here. Understood. The entire army roared, while the 4 rushed to follow him. Dugu Zhantian went next to Dugu Zhantian. Marshal, that steward is extremely cautious. He will ask a ton of questions and will not hold a polite tone. Please do not get angry when you deal with him. Humph, you think my temper is short like you rascals? Dugu Zhantian laughed, and Dugu Hua grumbled inside. Your rage is more explosive than mine. Dugu Lin slapped his fan. Third brother, that steward didn't do it out of caution. He wants to see the marshal in person. As to why, we shall soon find out soon. Ha ha ha, Linner is the most cool-headed among you, and can see things differently. He is right, the Luo clan must have wanted to see me. Then I will just have to see for myself what's so great about this clan, ha ha ha. Dugu Zhantian walked with his domineering air, soon arriving at Blackwind Mountain. Tianyu's marshal, Dugu Zhantian greets Luo clan head. Dugu Zhantian bellowed hum. The poison dragon array's miasma dissipated and Zhuafan came out. But this time he had a look of complete respect. He bowed. I am Luo clan steward, Zhuafan. Welcome, Marshal Dugu, and the 4 generals. Oh, so you're that steward? I heard you're quite cautious, not trusting even my token in the hands of my generals. Why then do you believe who I am at the mere sight of me? Dugu Zhantian grinned, clearly mocking Zhuafan's earlier attitude, but Zhuafan acted the fool. Marshal Dugu is the god of war. Who dare impersonate you? Even if someone did, none could copy your aura honed after numerous victories, nor the thick killing intent on you for slaughtering countless men. Is there any other true man, a man old but holding strong still, in Tianyu? I could feel and hear from afar the might you possess. Only Marshal Duga is capable of making my energy surge in my veins. My respect to you is like a flood, an unstoppable river, like a never-ending sea, a mighty. Fine, I get it. Dugu Zhangtian cut his rambling short. He wanted to test the kid and see his true intentions, but then, he saw him engage in this foolery, going as far as worshipping the ground he stepped on. It was so enrapturing, that even he felt a chill and had to stop it. If this went on for any longer, he'd be hurling for days and nights. The four were dumbstruck. None saw it coming. Zhuofan this time was a thorough ass kisser, blowing their wish of questioning out of their minds. Dugu Zhangtian had seen his fair share of fawners like Zhuofan, but never wasted time with any. Whenever they spoke, it was always followed by a long endless string of adulation. Dugu Zhangtian took a long look at him. This backwater town has many experts, it seems, even this young steward. I am in awe. Then, little brother, is it possible to see Luo clan head? He's eagerly awaiting. Grinning, Zhuofan bowed and Dugu Zhangtian strode forward. The marshal could see this was all arranged by that mighty figure. He could feel getting closer and closer to him. What he didn't know was that mighty figure was that young steward. The four generals followed closely, with Dugu Hua jutting his chin and muttering next to Zhuofan. Humph, now do you believe us? Of course, I was too blind to see your greatness. I beg your pardon. Zhuofan smiled. Dugu Lin looked at him deeply but shook his head. In the end he was Dugu Army's strategist, and knew something was off about Zhuofan. But he just couldn't dare believe all of this was orchestrated by such a young pup, or he would be the second coming of Zhuge Changfeng. Chapter 199 My Godfather, My Rock. Chapter 199 My Godfather, My Rock. Please, after you, Marshal! With Zhuofan as guide, they passed through the Poison Dragon Array, reaching the peak of Blackwind Mountain. Instead of a lavish clan dwelling, they were greeted by simple gates of a barracks. They could even hear faint cries of kill from beyond. Frowning, the five were quite puzzled. What is the Luo clan up to now? With a smile, Zhuofan gestured. Ha, please don't take offense, Marshal. We have just recently gone through a bloody attack and are still tense. Our guards especially, training day and night. Will God of War be willing to say a few words to our young blood? The whole clan would be most grateful. Zhuofan bowed again. Dugu Zhangtian nodded slowly. He first wanted to know what the Luo clan was cooking up, and second, to know how deep they hid their assets for the Emperor to view them so highly and pull him from the borders and rescuing a nameless clan. He had to see for himself what they really were. Following Zhuofan through the gates, the five arrived before Luo clan's manor. What had them all in shock was that there were no buildings around, only tents. They looked akin to an army ready for war. That was Zhuofan's ingenious plan was all about. He tore down all buildings for tents to stir Marshal Dugu's sympathy and make him feel at home. With how Dugu Zhangtian spent years on end on the battlefields, he'd be more at home in a tent than between four walls. This was also a form of flattery, to conform to one's tastes. Covert as it was, sure enough, Dugu Zhangtian trembled as he nodded. Zhuofan no longer spoke, having a sly grin on his face. Instead they soon arrived at Luo clan's training area, where Captain Peng was in the middle of practice with his guards. Most of them were still children, but their every strike was filled with zeal and their eyes burning with power. They looked strikingly similar to veterans after decades of war. Not even Dugu Zhangtian could remain unfeeling seeing such a scene. Just what could those 10-year-olds have possibly seen to harden their gaze? As an experienced commander, with decades of war behind him, he knew how to turn a batch of fresh recruits into dauntless warriors, but never in his wildest dream did he expect to see this in a backwater clan. The world was filled with marvels. He was now burning to know who was this great figure behind the Luo clan. Unbeknownst to him, this burning zeal in the eyes of the youths was thanks to the wraith art they trained in. As for those kids whose spirits were crushed, they lay dead, with bones crushed and bodies mauled. What he was seeing were those that came back from the brink of death, standing at the peak. How could they not be dauntless? Marshal, our third-rate clan just went through a disaster, and only the surviving few are training now. You must be thinking it's a sorry sight. Zhuofan sighed in faint modesty. Dugu Zhangtian shook his hand. No, hardly. The kids may not have cultivated, but their eyes are those of elites. If these are just your survivors, then your main guard unit that fell must have been a monster. How could such a mighty guard ever need rescuing? Zhuofan blinked and smiled. This marshal is pragmatic. I see now why he is acclaimed as a god of war. He is an upright and just man. Zhuofan nodded secretly, having understood more about the marshal's nature. Then, Marshal, please feel free to point out some tips. No need. I would not dare show my meager skill before you. Dugu Zhantian laughed. Steward Zhua, I only wished to meet with your clan head. Such a man has set 4 fifth-grade arrays, and still trained such young warriors. I'm truly eager to see him. The 4 behind him were shocked. Marshal was the god of war, with countless figures wanting to meet him. But now, it was the other way around. It was he who wanted to see someone else just who was guiding the Luo clan. How could the mere training of some guards move the Grand Tianyu's god of war? The 4 sighed as they turned to look at the guards again. These small few children were indeed far stronger than their own elites, it's no wonder. Zhuofan's eyes flashed and grinned. Since Marshal is so eager, please come with me. Our clan head is also waiting. Zhuofan entered the biggest tent as the others rushed to catch up to him. How could they have known all of this? Was Zhuofan leading them by the nose? The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors, to be taken into account in one's deliberations, when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. These are, the moral law, heaven, earth. Smiley face, excerpt from Sun Tzu's Art of War. A bright voice read. Dugu Zhantian's faltered his steps. That's the art of war. Who is reading? Oh, I almost forgot. Young master had been training for 20 hours. He needs some rest. Zhuofan slapped his forehead and rushed in another direction. He was unconcerned about the others following him. Though Dugu Zhantian's group followed either way, they arrived at a small yard where a youth held a bull on his head and in horse stance. His knees and hands also held a bull, but the surface of the water was unperturbed. What laid under his but was a shining dagger. If his legs slacked for even a second, he'd tear himself a new one. Despite the danger, he was still reciting the art of war. Dugu Zhantian was puzzled. Steward Zhua, he? Ha ha ha, Luo clan's young master, Luo Yunhai. Zhuofan chuckled. From young to old, all of Luo clan admires Marshal Dugu. All of us adhere to military doctrine. Especially the young master, who is training while studying, hoping to one day to serve under the marshal. Dugu Zhantian blinked. Why is the clan head of this Luo clan with his impressive soldiers wish to be under me? Everything about this clan is mysterious. Just what are they after? Zhuofan probed with a smile. Marshal, will you accept our young master? Of course. If the youth wishes to serve his nation, to enter the battlefield. Perfect. Zhuofan's yell cut him off. He then pulled Luo Yunhai up. Yunhai, don't just stand there. Marshal Dugu wants to take you in. Go and pour him tea. Right away. Luo Yunhai ran like the wind, like a bird out of its cage. Finally out of that damn position. I almost couldn't take it. Dugu Zhantian felt dizzy. Wait, you're going to make me accept him here? Steward Zhua, that was. Marshal Dugu needn't say anything. My clan head would be immensely pleased to know you showed such care for young master. He will be grateful for all his life. You may not know it, but this was our clan head's cherished dream. Zhuofan held Dugu Zhantian's large hand, with tears in his eyes. Dugu Zhantian wanted to refuse, but now he didn't have the heart to go through with it. Isn't it just a soldier? He isn't half bad either. Perhaps he'll earn some merits in the future. It's just taking one extra recruit anyway. Sighing, he nodded in the end. Then a screech came. Marshal Dugu, it's actually you? Luo Yunchang appeared. Who knew when, and was shaking from excitement. Zhuofan's face was twitching. Tone it down on the boasting. Steward Zhua, she. Let me introduce you. She is our young miss, Luo Yunchang. Zhuofan brought her before Dugu Zhantian and explained what happened. Luo Yunchang's eyes lit up. jumping in joy, completely out of her modest and virtuous character. Juefan's mouth twitched as he whispered, "All right now, don't push it." Luo Yunchang reined in her excitement, then apologized to Dugu Zhantian, who didn't seem to mind, but the four generals looked particularly close at Luo Yunchang. Especially the third brother, whose eyes were practically burning. Juefan laughed inside. Yep, she is no less than Diaochan. And Luo Yunchang is also a rare beauty. Smiley face, fictional character in Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Diaochan is one of the four beauties of ancient China. She is a maid of Dongshui who charmed Lu Bu into assassinating him in 192. Juefan turned to Dugu Zhantian. "Marshal Dugu, taking young master in is the greatest joy that ever graced the Luo clan. Why not make it even better by becoming kin?" "Kin?" Stunned by those words, the four generals looked at Luo Yunchang with blushes. Dugu Zhantian rubbed his beard and looked expectantly at her. "I don't know if clan head will agree." "No worries, Dad would definitely agree. It is his cherished wish." Luo Yunchang rushed a reply. Dugu Zhantian saw his godsons bashful but hardly refusing. Dugu had it worse. Like a volcano ready to blow, Dugu Zhantian recalled how his godsons had fought by his side for decades and thought it was time for them to start a family. So he nodded. "Since clan head agrees, then I'm more than happy to do it." The four generals clenched their fists, so excited they were trembling. But who was the one to marry this young miss? Juefan's eyes flashed and showed a sly smile. Luo Yuhai now came with the tea and saw Juefan nodding. He kneeled as he offered the teacup to Dugu Zhantian. Dugu Zhantian's mind was filled with the joy of a wedding, taking the cup in passing, but at that moment, Luo Yunhai's voice slammed into their ears. "Luo Yunhai greets Godfather." Dugu Zhantian staggered, as he spat out the tea he just drank. Chapter 200 I Want a Sister-in-Law, Not a Brother. Chapter 200 I Want a Sister-in-Law, Not a Brother. WW, what did you just call me? Dugu Zhantian's old eyes bulged and pointed a trembling finger at Luo Yuhai with a shocked face. The four generals were dumbstruck as well. Marshal only agreed to take him as a soldier. How did it jump from that to being a godson? Luo Yuhai had a genial face as he cupped his hands in respect. "Is it wrong of me to call you Godfather?" "Yeah, well, Marshal, didn't you say it yourself that you wanted to be kin?" The Grand Marshal Dugu is going back on his word over such a trivial matter? Juefan secretly snickered. Dugu Zhantian was bug-eyed. It took a while to get over his shock and turn from Luo Yunchang to Luo Yuhai. True, Steward Zhua only spoke of being kin, not caring to elaborate on its type. For Luo Yuhai to call him Godfather was also a type of kin, but since only Luo Yunchang was there at the time, they believed it could only be through marriage, and the next thing they noticed was that Luo Yuhai was kneeling there, and offering the teacup. Wasn't his actions clearly done for a godfather ceremony? Sigh, how could I be so careless? Dugu Zhantian rested his forehead, and said to Juefan bitterly, "Steward Zhua, then what you meant by kin was in fact..." "Yes." "Did Marshal perhaps think otherwise?" I thought, looking at Luo Yunchang, then at his four godsons. Dugu Zhantian sighed in resignation. "The same." The four generals' faces crumbled with his last words. Juefan clapped with joy. "Ha ha ha, outstanding. Then, young master, hurry and kowtow 3 times to your godfather." "Yes." Luo Yuhai shouted, more than eager in his obeisance. Dugu Zhantian sighed bitterly with a shake of his head. He wanted to give his godsons a sister-in-law, only to end up giving them a younger brother instead. He was left with no alternative, since he already accepted. If he were to switch facts now and say he wanted the girl instead, wouldn't it be the same as robbing the common people's women? He was Dugu Zhantian, who had an illustrious military reputation, a man pursuing honesty and bravery as well as maintaining a strict order in his ranks. Was he just going to throw it all away just like that? Let it be. With his talent and Luo clan's elite army, in 2 years of training under me, he ought to turn up as another tiger, no? Dugu Zhantian looked on the bright side. His face then turned serious as he looked at Luo Yuhai. "Yuhai, today, you take me as your godfather, so you must follow the rules of the Dugu house." I am a man that separates private and public matters. Now that you are in the Duga army and if I am still in armor, you must address me as marshal. Disobey any military rule and I will punish you according to the martial law, no exceptions. Your 4 brothers can attest to that. Yes, Godfather. Marshal! Luo Yunhai cupped his hands in glee. Duga Zhantian nodded, pleased, clever boy. Furthermore, as you are now my godson, you are not to shame my name, or your head shall fall. Yes, Marshal! Luo Yunhai grinned and shouted. Zhuofan smiled and cupped his hands. Congratulations, Marshal, for getting another bright godson. I am most certain our young master will not let you down. He then turned to the 4 generals, his smile ever present. Congratulations, generals, you have now an outstanding brother. Young master shall be indebted to you looking after him, ha ha ha. Turning from the beaming Luo Yunchang, a fairy upon this mortal world, to the grinning Zhuofan, the 4 looked bitter and depressed. Enough blabber. We have enough brothers as it is, millions in fact. We don't need more, all we wanted was a sister-in-law. Dugahua had it worse, feeling such disappointment that his eyes glistened with tears. Goddamn wretched Luo clan. You ignited our desires without us knowing and you give us a little brother instead? I feel like crying. I've been in the field of battle for decades and now I don't want to go back. Knowing exactly what they were grumbling about in their minds, Zhuofan gave Luo Yunchang a thumbs up as he laughed and sighed. Who knew the young miss knew how to work her charms? She got the 4 of them hooked without so much as an eye batting. Luo Yunchang stuck out her head in womanly pride and returned Zhuofan an enchanting smile. This only worked to fuel the lamentation in the 4 men's hearts. Steward Zhua, now that I have Yunhai as godson, don't you think it's time I see your clan head? Duga Zhantian asked, shuddering. Zhuofan sighed a nod. Indeed, I do believe clan head wished he could meet Marshal for a long time. Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang showed sullen faces. Duga Zhantian's group was startled. Following them in silence, not 15 minutes later, they reached a large tent. Zhuofan allowed them to enter first. What they saw left them speechless. On the table in the middle of the large tent stood a lonely spirit tablet. It was actually inscribed with Luo clan head's name. Clan head, your most esteemed and revered Marshal Duga has come to see you. You must be so happy. Zhuofan's knees hit the ground, wailing to high heavens. Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang had tears streaming down their cheeks. Unlike Zhuofan, theirs was no act, but genuine pain. The loss of their father happened 2 years ago, and this spirit tablet was very much real. How could they not feel sorrow when gazing upon the spirit tablet? Duga Zhantian's group was stunned. They never would have thought the Battle of Windgaze City just now was so disastrous it robbed them of their clan head. They had come too late. Shaking his head, Duga Zhantian and the generals felt their pain, paying their respects as well by burning incense. Their hearts were bleak, thinking the clan head died not a few days ago. Steward Zhua, if you don't mind me asking, are the 4 5th-grade arrays outside due to clan head? Duga Zhantian asked. After showing his respect, Zhuofan jumped to his feet and held his head high. It is indeed so. Clan head was but a bone-tempering cultivator, but that didn't stop him from reading the starry sky and the land's layout, grasping arrays and alchemy alike. Those arrays were personally placed by the clan head. Clan head was a truly extraordinary man. I see why His Majesty sent me to your rescue. Duga Zhantian sighed regarding the intricacies of a 5th-grade array. Not even a radiant stage expert could claim to understand them fully. But as a mere bone-tempering cultivator, the Luo clan head could set 4 5th-grade arrays. He had to be the genius of the millennium. A pity that he was only in the bone-tempering stage and was too weak to control the arrays fully and repel the stronger invaders. Duga Zhantian could even imagine clan head's last moments. He sighed. A true pity. If only he was still alive, I would have asked him to join my army as general. He would have been a great help to my army in fighting back the Qianrong. Zhuofan's eyebrow flickered and clicked his tongue inwardly. Thank God I wasn't stupid enough to say I set them up, or they'd be hauling me to the borders. That would be dreadfully scary. And who was the filth that dared attack the Luo clan, making you suffer so much, and even kill clan head? Duga Zhantian's killing intent spiked. He was only sent here by the emperor to protect the Luo clan. As for the enemy, he had no idea who it was. Xuefan snickered inwardly, perfect, and sobbed. Marshal does not know how cruel and terrifying they were. We had 100,000 people on Blackwind Mountain, now reduced to less than 10,000. The sorrowful siblings jumped in fright, looking at Xuefan with horror. Nothing seemed beneath this guy, no act too foul, no ditch too filthy. The siblings thought to themselves, when were there ever 100,000 men on this mountain? Better yet, we couldn't feed them even if there were. Dugujantien was boiling mad. Such bastards slaughtering common folk live in my country? Now that I've returned to court, I will make sure to uproot this evil from our nation and bring it to peace. Please Godfather, Marshal, bring justice to the Luo clan. Luo Yihai bowed. Luo Yinchang rushed to do the same. Please Marshal, bring us justice. Be at ease, I do not tolerate such meaningless slaughter. I will have them taste the fist of justice for you. Dugujantien flicked his sleeve and roared. Dugufeng grabbed Luo Yihai and Luo Yinchang's arms and helped them to their feet. But his eyes never left Luo Yinchang. Ha ha ha, even if Yihai wasn't my brother, the 4 tigers will never let such criminals live. The other 3 were gnashing their teeth in frustration. That's eldest brother for you. Swift to act. Chapter 201 Foolproof. Chapter 201 Foolproof. Old Marshal, would it be possible for us to go with your army when you set out? To cheer you on. Xuefan looked as guileless as a newborn. Blinking, those big eyes of his. Dugujantian's face froze, slapping himself with his calloused hand, and stammering to find the right answer. He just had to go and brag about getting justice for Luo clan. Now, he got his just desert. Just what excuse was good enough to get out of this one? Dugulin felt his godfather predicament, and said with a roll of his eyes, Steward Zhua, are you sure it's Hell Valley? Do you have any proof? This is a very serious matter. Attacking the 7 houses without a reasonable charge, the whole empire will rise up against us. Right, that's my concern as well. Dugujantien recovered quickly and stared on the steward and the siblings as he asked, tense, Do you have any proof? Looking at each other, Xuefan and the siblings frowned. The 3 houses' elders and venerables were wiped out. How would they get evidence now? After muttering for a while, Xuefan spoke. They fled too fast and left nothing behind. Dugujantien sighed in relief, then gestured at Dugulin in appreciation for lifting that rock off his heart. Since there's no proof, although. Xuefan's interjection got Dugujantien on the edge. However fast they ran, their spies, the Sun clan and Kai Rong, our former elder, with his son, were left behind and are in our custody. That should be enough proof. Dugujantien hinted at Dugulin for help. Dugulin was the wisest and most level-headed among the 4 tigers. It now fell unto him to uphold the reputation of the Dugu army. To let this matter die, Dugulin shook his head. A spy of no importance, that has absolutely no relation with anyone from Hell Valley, can hardly be considered proof. Exactly. Dugujantien shook his head in dismay. I'm not trying to avoid this, but my hands are tied without hard evidence. Or I would have set out with my army at once, trampling Hell Valley into the ground. Roaring with such zeal, Dugujantien sighed at the end. While giving Dugulin a thumbs up on the slide, Dugulin gave a covert nod as well. Their oil marshal was a military man, hating evil to the core, but not a hot-headed one. He couldn't just attack the important 7 houses on a whim, or it would ruin Tianyu. While Xuefan couldn't care less. The world could burn for all he cared, as long as his enemies perished in the fire. Seeing Dugujantien not easily pushed to make an enemy out of Hell Valley, pointing out one lame excuse after another, Xuefan frowned. What to do? How can I make Dugujantien and those bastards get in a conflict? Even a minor skirmish is better than nothing. Xuefan's plan was similar to what he did during the battle in Windgaze city. This time, though, the grudge between the Luo clan and the 7 houses would shift into the grudge between 4 pillars, Dugujantien and the 7 houses. That'll keep Luo clan safe and sound for a few years at least. Xuefan saw it was far-fetched to get rid of Hell Valley anytime soon and didn't make all these preparations for that. He wanted Dugu Zhantian to be the face of Luo clan and let everyone know they'd have to go through Marshall before getting to them, but this old goat keeps skirting around instead. Zhua Fan's eyes darted around in deep thought. Steward Zhua, our scouts report 3 floating lights above Windgaze City. What are they? Captain Peng burst into the tent. Zhua Fan raised an eyebrow and everyone went outside. Up above, 3 light indeed spiraled in the sky. They had erratic movements, as if flies with no way home. That's a messaging jade slip! Dugu Zhantian was shocked. Fonger, grab them and see who sent them. Understood. Dugu Fong cupped his hands, but before he acted, a figure flashed in the sky with a rumble. It caught the jade slips and was back in a flash. Dugu Zhantian and the 4 generals were dumbstruck. Zhua Fan was just a 5th layer of bone tempering cultivator, yet could fly as fast as a profound heaven expert, and his lightning wings could turn in mid-air, as if alive. It was shocking enough for Clan Head to set up the 5th grade arrays, and no one was expecting such a skill from the young steward. One had to wonder what faces they'd make when they realized his speed wasn't limited to match the Profound Heaven stage, and that he had killed many renowned Profound Heaven experts in Tianyu, but since they only now returned from the battlefield, they were still out of the loop as to how dreadful this devoted and fervent servant of the Luo clan was. Chuckling at their reactions, Zhua Fan took the lead to look into the 3 jade slips. Then he snickered. Marshal Dugu, weren't you looking for proof? Here it is, he. Dugu Zhantian took the 3 jade slips skeptical. But when he read them, his face darkened and cursed inwardly. Are these 3 houses packed with idiots? Couldn't they have taken these jade slip with them before leaving? These were Hell Valley, Pill King Hall, and Marywood's 3 house leaders sending their orders to their elders and venerables when a messaging jade slip arrived. Only their respective house elder could retrieve it through a specific gesture. In the case when no one was there to take them, the jade slip would float around for 2 hours before finally returning to the sender. It was a pity that these important elders and venerables in Windgaze City had long since kicked the bucket. The jade slips floated about idly, and Zhua Fan took them as the much-needed irrefutable proof to set Dugu Zhantian into motion. Marshal Dugu, is this enough? Zhua Fan smiled inside, but his face calm as ever. Dugu Zhantian spoke with hatred. Enough! Is this proof foolproof? It is. So when can we expect you to charge on Hell Valley? Dugu Zhantian's face was solemn. I will need His Majesty's approval to move the army. Don't worry, I will take the proof to court and definitely bring justice to the Luo clan. Zhua Fan beamed. As long as you do it. Marshal, won't it be convenient to deal with Pill King Hall and Mary Woods as well since you're at it? Look, the Foolproof also involves them as well. Dugu Zhantian felt a headache coming. Hell Valley is bad enough, now you want those 2 dealt with as well? Why not repeat history and jump straight to a full-blown war with the 7 houses like the one 1,000 years ago? Dugu Zhantian smiled dejectedly. I will report to His Majesty and abide by his ruling. Oh, that's also fine. Zhua Fan nodded. Then he recalled something. But Marshal, since you're returning to the court, mind including one little thing in your report? What, there's more? Dugu Zhantian was speechless. Just how many houses did you step on anyway? Zhua Fan scratched his nose. This might be a bit tricky though. We knew they were working behind the scenes, but there's no solid proof about them. It's up to Marshal if you wish to mention them. The one behind 3 houses? Who? Dugu Zhantian's voice trembled. Zhua Fan smiled and spoke vaguely. Ha, to Marshal it is no one important. But to us, a small clan, it is a colossus. Only under Marshal's wing can we survive. Who exactly are they? Dugu Zhantian was growing anxious. Regent Estate. SSS. Gasping, not just Dugu Zhantian, but even the generals were in complete shock. Did the Luo clan poke the heavens or something? Not only offending the 3 houses, but even Regent Estate. Dugu Zhantian may not fear Regent Estate, but his losses would be disastrous. His Dugu army was the defense of the nation. How could it be worn down in civil war? What's wrong, Marshal Dugu? Zhua Fan blinked his large eyes. Dugu Zhantian hurriedly walked away with his 4 godsons for fear Zhua Fan could read his mood. You guys sure are awesome, But I can't make a rash decision in this. I will return to camp and think it through. Oh, why do I suddenly feel so dizzy? Marshal Dugu, if you disregard us, what about the promise you made in front of Clan Head's spirit tablet to bring us justice? Zhuofan shouted as he showed them out. Luo Yunhai cried. Godfather, Marshal, you promised me. Fine, I am a man of my word. However, let me wrap my head around it first. My camp is only 10 miles from here. With me here, no one will bother you. Let's leave it at that. Goodbye. Dugu Zhantian cupped his hand in a rush, then ran away. The 4 tigers of Tianyu gave Luo Yunchang one last look, then followed suit. They vanished the next second. Zhuofan grinned seeing them gone in a blink. This Marshal Dugu may not want to contest with the 7 houses, but he did promise us safety at least. Big bro Zhuo, Luo Yunhai said. Do I really have to join Marshal's army? Of course. It is your fortune to be trained by Dugu Zhantian, the man who held the frontiers for decades, with 4 tigers under him. Why don't you do it then? Wasn't he fascinated by your arrays? Zhuofan snorted. As the saying goes, a good man doesn't enlist. Why the hell would I go for? Smiley face points at him being an honest-to-God, faithful and righteous man who does no evil. Or he's one hell of a smart guy to avoid enlisting. Then what about me? Shooting him a look, Zhuofan spoke coldly. You either go with Dugu Zhantian, or cultivate 20 hours a day. Army, here I come! Luo Yunhai ran out in fear. Luo Yunchang smiled, then muttered. Zhuofan, what if making him a godson fails? Would you have married me off to make a tie with 4 pillars? Perhaps. Zhuofan spoke as if it was obvious. In regards to political marriage, using you to get the 4 pillars on our side is as good a move as any. In fact, we'd be the ones truly winning here. We could even go a step further and get the best out of it by having you marry Dugu Hua. He is so impulsive and easy to use. Go to hell! Luo Yuchang glared at him and kicked him off the mountain before leaving in a huff. Zhuofan ate dirt before he got to crawl to his feet and shouted behind her. What the hell? Isn't it all for Luo clan? Besides, what difference does it make who you aren't even marrying? This only worked to fuel Luo Yunchang's rage as she stomped faster. In another place, Dugu Zhantian's group descended the mountain post-haste. In fear Zhuofan would go after them with more excessive demands. Suddenly, Dugu Lin stopped with a frown. Marshal, why do I have the odd feeling we've been played? The others stopped as well, now noticing something was very off about all this. In their trip to Blackwind Mountain, they didn't get anything cleared up, yet ended up with a godson and a heavy responsibility. At the end of the day, they were now tied with Luo clan to the point they'd be fighting 4 houses together. What's going on here? Dugu Zhantian and the tigers scratched their heads in complete loss. Chapter 202 Ant. Chapter 202 Taunt. A fortnight later, Zhuofan was patiently cultivating, taking advantage of the short idle time he rarely could afford. He had to handle every little matter in the Luo clan these few days. It was his duty as a steward to make sure everything ran smoothly. Adding to that, he had to look after the guards and shadow corpse cultivation. Thus, his own training suffered since Luo Yunhai was now Dugu Zhantian's godson. He also had to constantly ferry this young master to Dugu Zhantian's camp and strengthen their relationship. Their interactions were rocky at first, with Dugu Zhantian in a bad mood, but the kid was sharp and slowly started to grow on the old guy. Soon, Marshal began treating him like his favorite. Even though he was aware of Luo clan's intent, he nonetheless agreed to it in a moment of carelessness, and they got so close that Luo Yunhai was staying at the Dugu army camp 10 miles out for 2 or 3 days sometimes. It was such a relief to Zhuofan to hear this. This pair of godson and godfather finally shows results. Suddenly, Zhuofan opened his eyes and grinned wickedly. Hee, I was beginning to worry I'd have no excuse to get that old man to march on you. But who'd have thought you'd come instead? It doesn't get any better than this. Old Pang! Zhuofan got out and shouted. Captain Pang rushed to him and cupped his hands. Steward Zhuo, what do you need of me? Go to Dugu army camp and tell the old man, trouble has come to Luo clan. What, enemy attack? Where? Can I go see? Captain Pang was growing anxious in his rush outside. Zhuofan flicked his forehead with a smile. Stop using that excuse. Don't worry about that and just go ask for help. Captain Pang scratched his head, puzzled. But since Zhuofan said it, he'd have to follow his order. After all, Zhuofan's every move was meticulously made and surely had a good reason for this. As long as they followed his instructions, everything would be all right. Zhuofan smiled as Captain Pang ran like the wind. Then he also flew towards Windgaze City's gate at the same time. People started appearing nearby the entrance of Windgaze City, people from Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Drifting Flowers Edifice, and Sword Marquis abode. Chu Bijuan looked beyond the gates with worry. I wonder if the attack already started. I hope we're not too late. If there ever had been an attack, it had to have happened already with how quiet the city is. However, Long Yifi muttered, Windgaze City is forbidden to us from the 7 houses. Shouldn't we scout it first? Everyone turned quiet. They didn't know how Hell Valley and the rest infiltrated the city. But one thing was certain, they didn't just waltz in. If they go in and get discovered, adding to that the possibility of Luo clan being laid in ruins, they would be the ones to ultimately take the fall with the weakened imperial family. They wouldn't suffer much, but the Regent estate wasn't that benevolent. They'd accuse them of rebelling with this excuse. They'd fall right in their trap, but they wouldn't know the situation without going in first, and they also couldn't just stay here fiddling their thumbs either. It was hard no matter what choice was made. Sighing, Chu Bijuan tapped her golden dragon head cane. One must do what he has to do. Let's go! She then led Iris and Peony overseers to the gates. Long Yifi and Xie Xiaofeng nodded. Not far behind, either grandmother may be known as the Lady of Steel, but these 2 men were just as bold as her. They all disregarded the ban and any traps that may be about, going straight through the front gate into Windgaze City. Chu Bijuan, stop! A shout came from above and figures blocked their path. On a closer look, they were clearly people from Hell Valley, Pill King Hall, and Merry Woods. Chu Bijuan squinted. Valley Lord Yu, what's the meaning of this? Hee, we all know why we're here. Too bad, you're too late. Yuan Shan and Yan Buigong's group started laughing. Chu Bijuan frowned. You mean you already? Correct, we knew you'd come to help Luo clan. But no matter how fast you rushed here, could it be faster than the message Jade slips? Humph, I will let you in on a little secret. This was their general reaction ever since they heard 2 elders from Merry Woods got killed. After all, Zhuofan killed 4 and crippled 1 back in Drifting Flowers City, having long shocked the world. But then, they heard how Hell Valley and Regent Estate's elders suffered the same fate. Despite Regent Estate's elders being far stronger than Diamondback 8, this clearly pointed out the other 2 houses' elders were by no means weak. And even with all that, he killed all 6 of them perfectly, coming out of it without so much as a scratch. This was the real reason for their shock, especially to Chu Bijuan, who just woke up, finding it hard to cope to a world that changed so greatly so quickly. The revered 7 houses were not only taunted but ridiculed to such a degree. A storm was brewing, one that would shuffle the ranks of the 7 houses. Chu Bijuan's eyes trembled. Her gaze was fixed on Zhuofan, however, as they glinted.